Chapter 1. Is that true? How do you know that Xia Dong is still an old virgin? You're new, so of course you don't know. The fact that she's an old virgin is no longer a secret in our company. Xia Dong had just walked into the bathroom when she heard such a hot topic. Say she's so old yet she's still not in a relationship. Is it because no one wants her? Or is there something wrong with her? Xia Dong's eyebrows twitched. 24 years old. Is she that old? Another person said disdainfully. I heard that she's been going on blind dates recently, looking like she wants to get married quickly. But a woman like her, which man would dare to want her? There's gossip. Tell me, what's wrong with her? I heard that she lost her parents when she was young and lived in an orphanage for a period of time. Finally, she was brought home by her aunt. How many women from such a family are normal? Maybe she's psychologically perverted. Maybe she doesn't like men but women. That's why she's still not married after so many blind dates. Little she, you have to be careful. I see that she has a good relationship with you recently. Could it be that she's interested in you? Ah, no way. So disgusting. The two people in the cubicle shouted, so disgusting, at the same time. They didn't know that the person they were gossiping about had already gritted her teeth. She was just a little friendlier to her new colleagues. How was she as wretched as they said? Did these women have nothing better to do after eating their fill? Luo Shi and Chunli came out of the bathroom and were still laughing at Xia Dong. Unexpectedly, when they looked up, they saw Xia Dong with her arms crossed and looking at them with a smile. Xia Dong smiled exceptionally brightly. You're here too? What a coincidence. Yes, we're done. We'll leave first. Xia Dong smiled and waved. Take care, I won't send you off. As soon as she finished speaking, she heard two bangs. Luo Shi and Chunli, who were wearing high heels, fell to the floor. Chunli was in so much pain that she didn't care about her image and shouted, "Which bastard poured the hand sanitizer in front of the bathroom door? Oh, are you all right? I told you to walk slowly. Look, you fell down." Xia Dong looked down at the two struggling men and sneered. If you walk too fast, you might fall. Similarly, if you talk too much, you might bite your tongue. She just didn't want to fall in love or get married. How did she get in their way? Why did they have to make her sound so unbearable? Xia Dong gloomily sat down at the bar. She casually picked up the glass and drank a few mouthfuls. It wasn't until her head started to feel dizzy that she remembered that she couldn't drink. She would get drunk as soon as she touched a little alcohol. Ever since she was young, her aunt had forbidden her from drinking. Today she was so depressed that she forgot about it. Her head was getting dizzier and dizzier, and the figures in front of her had multiplied. She wanted to call her best friend, but she couldn't find her bag. She seemed to have forgotten her bag in the party's private room. Xia Dong stood up in a daze and staggered to the private room. She stumbled and fell on the cold floor. Her butt hurt. Xia Dong frowned and looked at the many heads around her in confusion. She stretched out her fingers and counted with a smile. 1 head, 2 heads, 3 heads. She was completely drunk and didn't know how tempting her current appearance was. Her long black hair was tied up high, revealing her slender and fair neck. Because she had fallen to the ground, her body leaned forward slightly. Her firm and supple bosom, which was wrapped by the suspender skirt, was almost on the verge of bursting out. A deep ravine caused people to be in a reverie. Her slender jade legs were exposed to the hot air without any concealment. Coupled with her slightly narrowed eyes and unconsciously licking her dry red lips, her whole body was full of seductive charm. As soon as Bailey Han walked into the hall, he saw Xia Dong sitting on the floor. She was very beautiful and sexy, but with a pure and confused expression. She was like the contradictory fusion of an angel and a devil, full of mysterious charm. But he was not interested at all. He withdrew his gaze and sat down at the bar. The bartender immediately came up to him and poured him a glass of wine as fast as he could. His slender and white hands, which were like an artist's, picked up the glass and took a sip. Then, there was another person in the empty seat beside him. Why are you sitting here drinking alone? Didn't you want to propose to Su Yinqian? Bailey Han looked up at Xiao Tiansheng, who was smiling unruly beside him, his good friend, who was also the boss behind the bar. He said coldly she refused. Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 2. Why? Did she have a change of heart? Bailey Han looked at him coldly. Why don't you guess that I have a change of heart? Xiao Tianxing shrugged. Compared to believing that you have a change of heart, I'd rather believe that tomorrow will be the end of the world. How can a single-celled emotional animal like you do something as complicated as a change of heart? Bailey Han pursed his lips. Even you don't believe that I have a change of heart. No wonder she was so sure that I would wait for her. Wait for her? Bailey Han ordered another glass of wine. The Royal Ballet invited her to go to the UK. Just before the plane took off, she told me that she wanted me to wait for her for 5 years. Don't you think that she is too cruel? Bailey Han looked up at Xiao Tianxing. His eyes were sharp and cold, but Xiao Tianxing could see some sadness in his eyes. Bailey Han and Su Yinqian were childhood sweethearts. They had officially confirmed their relationship for more than a year. Xiao Tianxing knew that his good brother had carefully prepared for a long time to propose to Su Yinqian, but he didn't expect that she would go abroad. Don't talk about her. Come on, let's drink. We haven't been drunk for a long time. Xiao Tianxing snapped his fingers and signaled the bartender to take out a bottle of red wine that he had treasured for a long time. Bailey Han raised his glass and drank it up. Xiao Tianxing patted him on the shoulder. It's good to have wine and a beauty. Look at that woman. She's beautiful, isn't she? Are you interested? Bailey Han followed his gaze and saw that Xia Dong, who had been sitting on the ground just now, had been helped to the sofa by a man. The man held her in his arms and smiled. Bailey Han frowned. I won't touch other women except Yinqian. Xiao Tianxing stared at a certain part of his body maliciously. Su Yinqian will stay in the UK for 5 years. Are you going to be a monk for 5 years? If you can tolerate it, can it? Bailey Han frowned. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a loud slap. Looking in the direction of the sound, he saw Xia Dong standing up shakily and beating the man who had touched her like a madwoman. Bastard, how dare you take advantage of me? See if I don't scratch you to death. Xiao Tianxing laughed. I thought it was a little sheep. I didn't expect it to be a little wild cat. Interesting. Bailey Han calmly retracted his gaze, seemingly uninterested. Xiao Tianxing originally wanted to find some entertainment for him to relieve his boredom, but he didn't expect him to not care at all. He suddenly felt a little bored and looked at Xia Dong, who was so drunk that she was staggering in the crowd. He suddenly had a good idea. Bailey Han got drunk after a few glasses of wine. Xiao Tianxing asked someone to send him to the VIP lounge. Xiao Tianxing found Xia Dong in the corner, who was sobering up with her hand covering her forehead. He smiled politely. Miss, our bar will pick a lucky person every night. The lucky person will receive room service from our bar. Congratulations on being the lucky person today. Xia Dong had sobered up a little. She had planned to sit for a while longer before returning to the VIP lounge to find her colleagues. She didn't expect to be so lucky. She was stunned. It's the first time in my life that I've won a prize. I mean, thank you, but no, my friends are in VIP lounge 118. I'm going to find them. I think it's better for you to go back to your room and have a rest before meeting your friends in your current condition. Xia Dong understood. She didn't know what had happened when she was drunk, but now her hair and clothes were a little messy. If she appeared in front of her colleagues like this, they might spread some nasty rumors. Okay then. Can I trouble you to tell my colleagues? Xiao Tianxing agreed with a smile and handed her the VIP lounge card. Beautiful miss, I wish you a pleasant night. Thank you. Xia Dong sighed. The service of this bar was really good. However, she ignored the slyness that flashed in Xiao Tianxing's eyes. Xia Dong opened the door with the room card. The lights in the room seemed to be broken. No matter how she pressed, the lights didn't turn on. Anyway, she won a prize, so she didn't care too much. She groped her way forward, took off her shoes, and threw herself on the bed. She didn't feel the soft mattress, but something warm and hard. What was this? She touched it again. It seemed to be a chest. There were 2 small protrusions. She was so scared that she quickly jumped off the bed. God, there was a man lying on the bed. Xia Dong was so scared that all the alcohol in her body disappeared. Her heart was pounding. The service of this bar was too good. They even provided prostitutes for winning customers. Ad. Hongchai 866. Chapter 3. But she didn't need it. She didn't need it at all. Xiaodong walked to the door and stopped. She was in a mess now. If she returned to the room, she would definitely be laughed at. Why not just stay the night? She could sleep on the sofa. Under the moonlight, she found the landline and called home in a low voice. Auntie, this is Xia. I'm staying at Siki's house tonight. I won't be going back. You should rest early. Xia, your Auntie Li has introduced you to another guy. We'll meet at the same place tomorrow. Don't be late. Xiaodong rubbed her temples. Auntie, I've said it many times. I don't want to go on blind dates or get married. Can you stop forcing me? How can that be? For a woman, the most important thing is her family. Look at you. You're not young anymore. It's time for you to fall in love. If your mother was still alive, she would definitely want to see you get married and have children as soon as possible. Okay, Auntie. I'm going to sleep. I have to wake up early tomorrow. Don't forget to meet him at noon. Got it. Xiaodong said perfunctorily and quickly hung up. Blind dates? Of course not. The purpose of going on blind dates was to get married and have children, but she didn't want to get married at all. As for having children, she could consider it. Xiaodong thought of the adorable baby in Yi Siki's house. He had a cute chubby face. Every time she saw the baby's smiling face, she felt happy. A bold idea suddenly popped into Xiaodong's head. Why don't we have a baby? The more Xiaodong thought about it, the more she felt that this idea was feasible. Counting the days, she was in a dangerous period, and there was a ready-made man lying on the bed. Although she couldn't see his face clearly, since he was a gigolo, he couldn't be ugly. Then she wouldn't have to worry about his genes. This was a godsend opportunity. Xiaodong washed up, and then climbed onto the ridiculously large bed. She straddled Bailey Han's body with her legs crossed. The man under her seemed to be a little uncomfortable from the pressure. He frowned and groaned. Xiaodong clasped her hands together and muttered, "Mister, I just want to borrow your seed. Don't worry, I won't cause you any trouble. On behalf of my family, I would like to thank you for your generosity." She undid the belt around his waist, and the white bathrobe slowly parted to two sides with her movements. Under the faint moonlight, she could vaguely see his muscular chest. Her trembling hands landed on his chest. Xiaodong could feel a burning sensation coming from her palms. Her heart raced. It was the first time in 24 years that she had such intimate contact with a man. Although he had mentally prepared himself, he still couldn't help but feel nervous. What should he do next? Take off my clothes? If he had known this would happen, he would have watched a few more Japanese adult education films. Although Xiaodong was brave, it was her first time experiencing this kind of thing. Her old face couldn't help but heat up. She made up her mind, leaned over, and suddenly pounced on Bailey Han. She aimed at his lips and kissed him. Her hands were also caressing his sturdy chest in a disorderly manner. Her kisses were hurried and messy. She moved from Bailey Han's cheeks to his neck, his collarbone, and his chest. She could feel that a part of his body was slowly waking up. It was hard against her lower abdomen, and his heart was beating faster. Yin Qian, Bailey Han, who was in a drunken dream, frowned impatiently. The tension and heat in his body made him groan uncomfortably. He was no longer satisfied with the woman on top of him. He suddenly turned over and pressed Xiaodong under his body. He caressed and kissed her soft lips. The beautiful touch made the fire in his lower abdomen burn even more fiercely. His slippery tongue entered her mouth, guiding her raw lips and tongue to entwine with his. Yin Qian, I love you. Give it to me, okay? Bailey Han, who was in a drunken dream, gently bit Xiaodong's earlobe. He stroked her softness with one hand and gently kneaded it. His other hand instinctively slid between her legs. Xiaodong knew that he had mistaken her for someone else. She clenched her teeth to hold back the shameful sound. Her whole body couldn't help but tremble slightly with his movements. His big hot hand rubbed between her legs. His tense body made him on the verge of exploding. However, he didn't take any further action, as if he was waiting for her answer. She was suddenly very moved by his deep affection for the girl named Yin Qian. If he woke up tomorrow and found that he had slept with a stranger, would he be sad? Forget it. Anyway, he was a gigolo. This was his job. Why should she worry so much? Xia Dong took the initiative to reach out and put her hands on his neck. She pulled him closer and made a clear sound of mm. Awesome novel Songshu 566. Chapter 4. Bailey Han hugged her tightly and tried several times, but failed. The sweat on his forehead had soaked his hair. Xia Dong was stunned. He couldn't find the place. Was it the first time? She shook her head to get rid of this incredible thought. Yinqian, I love you. Don't leave me. Xia Dong never knew that doing this kind of thing could be so tiring. She didn't understand why he was so tough. He didn't let her go until the early morning. Xia Dong resisted the tiredness and waited for him to fall asleep. Then she turned to look at him. This was the first time she had seen such a handsome man. His chest was strong and there was no extra fat. The lines of his face were also very beautiful. His tall nose and thin lips added to his charm. She felt her heart beat faster when she saw his side profile. She could almost imagine how beautiful he would be when he opened his eyes. However, no matter how good-looking he was, she would never have anything to do with him again. She would only treat him as a sperm donor. His clothes were scattered all over the floor. Xia Dong picked them up one by one, endured the pain, and went into the bathroom to clean up. There were kiss marks all over his neck and chest. If he walked out, everyone would know what had happened. What should he do? She wailed in pain and found a suit jacket on the sofa. That must be his jacket. Sorry, I borrowed your jacket. Because I didn't bring my wallet, I can't give you a tip. But don't worry, I will give you the tip and the jacket in 2 days. Xia Dong put on the jacket, which could barely cover the kiss marks. She sneaked out of the room and took her bag from Miss at the front desk. Ignoring the curious eyes of others, she ran out of the bar and stopped a taxi. Her legs were still trembling when she got into the taxi. It was partly because of the pain and partly because of nervousness. The dazzling sunlight shone in from the window. Bailey Han turned over and frowned. Then he seemed to think of something and sat up. He lifted the quilt and quickly covered his private parts. His sharp and gloomy eyes quickly swept around. All these proved what had happened last night. Damn it. That person was definitely not Yun Qian. He actually did something wrong to her. Shit. Bailey Han was furious. He roared at the person on the phone. Xiao Tianxing, you have 1 minute to get your ass over here. Xiao Tianxing rubbed his ears and slowly went upstairs. Why are you so angry so early in the morning? Bailey Han's face was livid, and his eyes were as sharp as knives. He said angrily, It's all your fault. I've always been a good drinker. How could I get drunk after a few glasses of wine? Who dares to enter this room without your permission? Xiao Tianxing touched his nose and confessed, I did add something to your wine. I also deliberately led that woman to your room. I even asked someone to cut off the power in this room, so that the woman wouldn't be scared away by your presence. I didn't expect everything to go so smoothly. Is this how you frame your good brother? Bailey Han stared at him coldly. Please don't make it sound so serious. I just wanted to find some fun for you. It's just a one-night stand. Why do you care so much? You didn't lose anything anyway. As long as you and I don't say anything, Su Yinqian won't know. Bailey Han's face was even more terrible. What should he say? Should he say that he had lost his virginity? He would definitely be laughed at by Xiao Tianxing for the rest of his life. The burning anger in Bailey Han's eyes made Xiao Tianxing, who had no inhibitions, tremble. He laughed dryly and said, I suddenly remembered that I have something to do. I'll leave first. Stop. Bailey Han stopped Xiao Tianxing but didn't say anything. After a while he coughed and said, You must find that woman. I didn't use condoms last night. Xiao Tianxing wanted to laugh. It was the first time he saw Bailey Han show such an expression. Was he shy? But he didn't dare to laugh. Otherwise he would die miserably. After quickly walking into the elevator, he laughed wildly for a full 10 minutes. Attention Songshu 566. Chapter 5. Half an hour later. When Bailey Han heard the information from Xiao Tianxing, his frown deepened and his expression darkened. You mean you didn't find out who she is? Xiao Tianxing spread his hands and looked helpless. I only know that it was a colleague gathering. I don't know which company she is from, or what her name is. With that, he raised his eyebrows. So what do you plan to do now? Are you going to let your child get away? Bailey Han's mouth twitched. If he could, he wanted to throw this man out. He looked at him coldly and said, "Put her on the wanted list in the city." Bailey Han had always been stubborn, so Xiao Tianxing was not surprised to hear him say that. What do you plan to do after you find her? Bailey Han's eyes darkened. If what Xiao Tianxing said was true, that woman was already sober when she entered the room last night. Even if there was no light in the room and she couldn't see what was going on, she should have left when she found someone in the room. She shouldn't have stayed. In that case, that woman wasn't a decent woman. He had seen many women like her who took the initiative to come to him, and he hated them very much. It was even more impossible for him to have anything to do with her. So what if she was a virgin? It was a pity that she gave her body to the wrong person. Bailey Han did not answer his question. His lips curved into a cold smile. Before noon today, I want all the radio stations and newspapers to put this woman on the wanted list. Xia Dong was in a mess. She couldn't go to the company, but she didn't want to go home and scare Xia Yun. So, she went to Yi Siki's house. Yi Siki was shocked to see Xia Dong in such a sorry state. What happened to you? Why are you wearing men's clothes? Xia Dong was exhausted from running around early in the morning. I'll tell you later. I'll borrow your bathroom to take a shower. Where's Lin Shihao? He should have gone to work, right? Yi Siki found a clean towel and clothes for her. He just left. Go take a shower first. I'll go check on Nyonyo. When Xia Dong came out of the bathroom, Yi Siki was holding her daughter, Nyonyo, who was almost 1 year old, and teaching her to speak. Xia Dong wiped her hair with her hands and sat beside Yi Siki, teasing Nyonyo. Nyonyo giggled and stretched out her chubby little hands. Auntie, hug, hug, hug. Nyonyo, be good. Auntie just finished washing my hair. Mommy will hug you. After Yi Siki coaxed her daughter, she looked at Xia Dong with an expression that said, "Tell me what happened." Xia Dong pinched Nyonyo's cute little face. Actually, it's not a big deal. I wanted to have a child, so I slept with a male prostitute in the bar. That dress was also his. Xia Dong spoke casually, but Yi Siki was so shocked that her eyes widened. You're saying that you slept with someone? That's right. You want to have a child. Absolutely. Yi Siki's expression suddenly became fierce. She suddenly slapped Xia Dong on the head. Are you crazy? You don't want to get married, but you want to have a child. Do you want to be a single mother? You will ruin yourself. Do you know that? Xia Dong couldn't dodge in time, and let the slap land on her head. It didn't hurt. She knew that Yi Siki had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. She looked fierce on the surface, but in fact she was just worried about her. Xia Dong smiled warmly. Yezi, my aunt has been urging me to get married and have a child. I don't want to disappoint her, but I feel that I will never fall in love with someone else in this lifetime, and then get married. So if I have a child, it will be considered as fulfilling half of her wish. It will also bring her some comfort. Yi Siki and Xia Dong had been good friends for more than 10 years. He knew that although she was usually carefree, she was actually very sensitive. She had never been able to walk out of the shadow of her past. He felt sad for her and worried for her. There were many things he wanted to say, but in the end, all the words turned into one sentence. If you have already made up your mind, then I can only support you. Yezi, thank you. Xia Dong's touched words suddenly stopped. All her attention was attracted by the television not far away. Her body began to tremble slightly, and gradually, it started to tremble violently. Wanted, wanted? That bar actually said that she stole something from a distinguished customer? Didn't she just borrow that male prostitute's jacket? Was there a need to make it sound so bad? Xia Dong was furious. She immediately called for the express delivery company. That afternoon, Xiao Tianxing received the package from Xia Dong. When he saw the contents of the package, he laughed so hard that he was about to cry. He couldn't wait to see Bailey Han's wonderful expression when he saw the package, so he personally brought the package to Bailey Han's company. Ad. Xingwu 799. Chapter 6. Bailey Han looked unkindly at Xiao Tiansheng, who had barged into his office and was smiling like a fox. You better have a legitimate reason. Or do you already know the whereabouts of that woman? Of course. Otherwise, how would I dare to disturb the busy President Bailey? Xiao Tiansheng smiled even more brightly, but there was a hint of schadenfreude in his smile. This package is from that woman. I think you'll be very interested in it. Bailey Han glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and opened the package. His suit jacket lay neatly in the box, and there was a note on it. I just borrowed your jacket, and you were so narrow-minded that you put me on the wanted list in the city. Now I'm giving you back your jacket and a 500 yuan tip. We're even. I'm warning you, don't make trouble for me again. After reading the contents of the note, Bailey Han's face turned livid. He couldn't wait to find that audacious woman immediately. Damn woman, she actually thought he was a gigolo and gave him a 500 yuan tip on her own accord. What did she mean by just borrowing his jacket? Did she know what the hell she had done? Reckless woman. Xiao Tiansheng laughed loudly. Our dear Mr. Bailey, who is known as the dream lover of all women, is actually regarded as a gigolo by her. This woman is simply too interesting. By the way, after you find her, can you be merciful for my sake? This sentence was no different from adding fuel to the fire. Bailey Han put his palms on the table to control his impulse to throw him down the 36th floor. He said coldly, I think you seem to be too idle recently. I don't mind telling your old man about your current situation. Xiao Tiansheng quickly stopped smiling and raised his hands in surrender. I was wrong, okay? Please don't tell my old man about my whereabouts, or I will die a horrible death. Bailey Han snorted coldly. It's good that you know. He glanced at the package on the table. Obviously, there was no mailing address or phone number on it. He said, contact the courier company. I want to know this woman's address. I knew you would want it. I've already asked the courier company. When Yi Siki returned from the supermarket, two men in black suits stopped at the door and asked about the express delivery. One of the men said, My name is Lu Zihao. I'm the assistant to the president of Shenghao Group. Did you mail this package? Yi Siki immediately recognized Xia Dong's handwriting. This package was the same one that Xia Dong had sent out this morning. She said with a straight face, No, I've never seen it before. But the courier said that it was mailed from your house. Could it have been mailed by your friend? Yi Siki denied. No friends have been to my house recently. No matter what the other party said, Yi Siki insisted on saying, I don't know and I'm not sure. Seeing that they couldn't get anything out of her, they finally left. Yi Siki quickly locked the door. Just now, in order to deal with them, she pretended to be calm. In fact, she was so nervous that her back was sweating. She was afraid that the two men would do something dangerous. Her intuition told her that Xia Dong had gone too far this time. It seemed that she had provoked a very powerful person. When she called Xia Dong, her fingers were still trembling. She dialed the phone several times, but no one answered. Yi Siki kept shouting in her heart, Xiao Xia, pick up the phone, pick up the phone. Shangmei Magazine. Xia Dong's phone kept vibrating in her bag, but no one answered because the owner of the phone was in the chief editor's office at this moment. Xia Dong took half a day off in the morning on the grounds that she was not feeling well. When she rushed back to the magazine in the afternoon, she was called into the chief editor's office. She was very nervous. Sister Lisa, are you looking for me? The chief editor of the magazine, Lisa, was a woman at the forefront of fashion. She was wearing a Chanel suit, which showed her white-collar temperament incisively and vividly. She raised her slender willowy eyebrows slightly and said, Xia Dong, are you okay? I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Sister Lisa. It's good that you're fine. I happen to have an exclusive interview for you. Lisa turned her office chair and casually threw a document in front of Xia Dong. The annual CEO election just ended yesterday. The president of Shenghao Group, Bailey Han, has been crowned for 3 consecutive years. I want you to get an exclusive interview with Bailey Han. Attention, Hongcha 866. Chapter 7. The president of Shenghao Group, Bailey Han, never appeared in front of the media. Even the annual CEO award ceremony was attended by his assistant, Lu Zihao. It was impossible for a person like him to accept an interview from the media, let alone a women's fashion magazine like theirs. Xia Dong bit her lip awkwardly and did not speak. What? You can't do it? Lisa's tone rose slightly, as if with a bit of mockery. Xia Dong's heart suddenly burst with an unyielding spirit. I will do it. Very good. Lisa hooked her lips and chuckled. Her slender fingers tapped on the table. Then let's start this afternoon. I want to see the interview this Friday. Xia Dong walked out of Lisa's office in high spirits. When she returned to her desk, she immediately hung her head down. The more she looked at Bailey Han's information, the more depressed she became. This man was really outrageous. The outside world did not even have a single photo of him. Could she really persuade such a person to accept an interview? Come on, Xia Dong. How can you surrender in the face of difficulties before it even starts? Xia Dong clenched her fists and cheered herself on. The manuscript was due on Friday, and there was no time to waste. She immediately called Shenghao Group to make an appointment for an interview, but was kindly but firmly rejected by the secretary. Xia Dong resolutely grabbed her bag and ran out. She decided to wait downstairs of Shenghao Group. She must find a way to meet the mysterious Bailey Han. Xia Dong followed a few people into the staff elevator. She casually asked someone, and learned that the president's office was on the 36th floor. After going upstairs, she went to the bathroom to touch up her makeup. Just as she was about to leave, a beautiful girl of 17 or 18 years old walked in while talking on the phone. Fian, we can't go shopping together today. I'm at Shenghao Group now. Well, you're right. Now that Sister Yunqian is abroad, I must seize the opportunity. Well, I won't talk to you anymore. Brother Bailey's meeting is about to end. Xia Dong's heart moved. Brother Bailey? Meeting? She couldn't be talking about Bailey Han, right? The girl was humming happily as she touched up her makeup. Xia Dong couldn't help but steal a glance at her. Her facial features were very delicate, like a doll that had been carefully carved. She was wearing a cute doll's outfit and had an innocent and well-behaved look. Her every movement exuded a noble temperament. She looked like a pampered princess. She should be from a wealthy family, and the brother Bailey that she was talking about was most likely Bailey Han. Xia Dong followed behind the girl unhurriedly, and watched as she walked to the door of a meeting room. Soon the door opened and a tall man walked out first. Before Xia Dong could get a good look at the man's face, the girl had already happily pounced on him. Brother Bailey, I'm here to see you. Let's have dinner together tonight, okay? The man turned sideways and looked at the secretary Mississippi. Even Xia Dong, who was standing far away, could feel the displeasure in his frown. The secretary trembled and hurriedly explained. President, Miss Su said she had something important to talk to you about, so You're fired. The man did not give her a chance to explain. The man's powerful and imposing aura was like a high pressure that enveloped everyone present. The employees did not even dare to breathe loudly. Let go. The man mercilessly flung the girl's hand away. Brother Bailey. The girl called out pitifully. Xia Dong, who was about to take a step forward, could not help but stop. She could tell that he hated being disturbed. If she rushed up now, she would definitely be chased out, right? However, if she did not get an interview with him, she would most likely be fired by Lisa. After all, Lisa had always disliked her, and was always finding fault with her. Phew, I'm going all out. Hello, Mr. Bailey, I am. Before she could finish speaking, the business card that Xia Dong had just taken out fell to the ground in shock. The man who turned around to look at her had an extremely handsome face, but also an extremely terrifying face. He was actually the one-night stand from last night, the legendary Bailey Han. God, are you kidding me? While Xia Dong was shocked speechless, Bailey Han also keenly realized that something was wrong. The woman in front of him looked very familiar. Just as his eyes flashed and he realized who she was, Xia Dong suddenly turned around and ran. The sound of high heels could be heard in the corridor. Running into the elevator, Xia Dong was so nervous that her heart almost jumped out of her throat. The moment the elevator doors closed, she saw Bailey Han chasing after her with the business card that she had dropped to the ground. Ad. Hongcha 866. Chapter 8. Xia Dong wanted to cry, but no tears came out. She slapped the back of her hand. Why did you bring a business card? Ding. The elevator stopped on the first floor. Like a cannonball, she rushed out of the elevator without thinking. As she ran into the lobby, there were more and more people. She couldn't slow down, and bumped into a broad chest. She looked up and saw the man in front of her. He was wearing a white shirt and black trousers. His light yellow hair hung down his face, and his slightly long bangs covered his slightly upturned eyes. Why are you so careless, The man reached out to support her. His charming voice was slightly raised, and his foxy eyes were slightly narrowed. So sorry. Xia Dong hurriedly retracted his arm and looked back in a panic. His sharp eyes saw that the CEO's private elevator door had opened and Bailey Han's tall figure was walking over. Behind him, there were two bodyguard-like figures following behind him. It was too late to escape. Xia Dong suddenly snatched the suit jacket from the man's arm. She put it on and said anxiously, "Sir, save me. I will repay you." Bailey Han and the others' hurried footsteps were getting closer. Xia Dong didn't care about the man's reaction. She threw herself into his arms and hugged his waist tightly. She buried her face in his chest and whispered, "Please let me borrow your arms." The man's body stiffened. Finally, he wrapped his arms around her waist and chuckled softly. "I can lend it to you, but don't forget what you said." Xia Dong sighed in relief and hid her face deeper. But soon, her heart was in her throat again. She clearly heard Bailey Han stop in his tracks, and then the man hugging her said in a light voice, "Brother, long time no see." Brother? Brother. God, can you be any more outrageous? You won't be satisfied until you play me to death. Xia Dong wanted to cry but had no tears. Bailey Han glanced at his younger brother, Bailey Yun, expressionlessly. "You just returned to China. What are you doing here instead of going home?" Bailey Yun shrugged. "Brother, we haven't seen each other for 3 years. I've been thinking about you day and night. As soon as I got off the plane, I rushed over to see you." Bailey Han's mouth twitched, as if he would believe him. Her gaze fell on the person in his arms. Who is she? Bailey Yin could feel Xia Dong's nervousness. He patted her waist with his right hand and smiled ambiguously. "Brother, when did you start to be interested in my woman?" Bailey Han said coldly, "Make her turn around." Bailey Yin raised his eyebrows and smiled frivolously. "We went a little overboard in the car just now. It might not be convenient for her to see brother now. Baby, don't you think so?" Xia Dong quickly stomped her little feet and pinched her throat. "How can I see anyone like this? It's so embarrassing." Bailey Yin smiled ambiguously. "Why don't you go to the bathroom and tidy yourself up? Brother and I will wait for you upstairs." Xia Dong acted coquettishly. "But I can't bear to leave you. Can you accompany me to the bathroom?" Now that Bailey Han was glaring at her from the side, she would be exposed as soon as she looked up. "Handsome, since you've decided to help me, then help me to the end." Bailey Yin blinked his slender eyes and stroked her hair, as if he was petting a pet. "I really don't know what to do with you. Brother, I'll accompany her to the bathroom first. I'll bring her upstairs to find you later." Bailey Han watched coldly as Bailey Yin walked away with Xia Dong in his arms. He ordered the bodyguards behind him, "Watch carefully." Then he ordered his assistant Lu Zihao, "Send the surveillance video of the hall to my office." He didn't believe that woman would disappear into thin air. As for what Bailey Yin said, he didn't completely believe it either. Bailey Han clenched the business card in his hand. His gaze was cold. "Xia Dong, even if you disappear now, I will find you. How do you plan to repay me?" Bailey Yin pressed Xia Dong against the wall at the bathroom door. The two of them stuck together ambiguously. "I'll treat you to a meal?" Xia Dong shrunk her body uncomfortably. She wanted to push him away, but although he looked thin and weak, he was strong. His arms trapped her between him and the wall and she couldn't move at all. "How about you give yourself to me?" Bailey Yin looked at Xia Dong with interest. Xia Dong rolled her eyes at him. "Although I'm very grateful that you helped me avoid a disaster, that doesn't mean that I will agree to your ridiculous condition." Bailey Yin laughed out loud. He poked her angry cheeks with his finger. "Io, are you angry? You're really cute. I was just joking. Come and see Hongcha 866. Chapter 9. Xiaodong slapped his hand away and said seriously, Young Master Bailey, please tell me your conditions quickly. I'm still running for my life. I don't have time to joke with you. She saw that there was a cold-faced bodyguard at the end of the corridor. It seemed that Bailey Han didn't believe the act they had just put on. Bailey Yin looked at her serious face. He rested his chin on his slender fingers and pretended to be thinking hard. He said, How about this? Tell me your name, and tell me why you offended my brother. Then we'll call it even. My name is Xiaodong, and I'm a magazine editor. I wanted to do an exclusive interview with your brother, but the secretary refused to let me in. So I sneaked in. Unexpectedly, your brother found out and wanted to drive me out with his bodyguards. That's what happened. Xiaodong spread her hands helplessly. Although her words were full of loopholes, Bailey Yin didn't ask further. He glanced at the bodyguard at the end of the corridor and raised his eyebrows. I can only help you this much. It's up to you how to get rid of him. Thank you. Xiaodong took off his coat and returned it to him. I'll think of a way. Bailey Yin's beautiful foxy eyes raised slightly and he smiled brightly. Bailey Yin, my name. Remember it. We'll meet again. 10 minutes later, Xiaodong was wearing the work clothes she bought from the cleaning lady. She wore a pair of black-rimmed glasses and carried a large bag of trash as she swaggered past the bodyguard. After leaving the building through the back door, Xiaodong took out her mobile phone from her bag and found that there were more than 20 missed calls. They were all from Yi Siki. After dialing, Yi Siki shouted excitedly, Xiaoxia, what are you doing? Why did you answer the phone so late? Let me tell you, 2 hours ago, the assistant of the president of Shenghao Group came to my house to ask about the package. I guess the person who slept with you that night wasn't a gigolo. It was very likely Bailey Han. Xiaodong answered weakly. How did you know I wanted to talk about him? Xiaodong scratched her head in frustration. Unfortunately, I just had a head-on confrontation with him. The person on the other end of the line was silent for a moment. Then what do you plan to do now? He doesn't look easy to deal with. I saw him pick up my business card. I think my identity has been exposed. I plan to resign and find a place to hide for a while. Since that man had put her on the wanted list with great fanfare, it meant that he was very concerned about what had happened last night. If he found her, he would definitely not let her go easily. She had better lie low for now and wait for this matter to pass before making any plans. What about your aunt? Just say that I'm going on a business trip. After hanging up the phone, Xiaodong rubbed her belly in frustration. She thought to herself, God, you have to make me pregnant. Otherwise, my sacrifice will be too great. Back at the magazine, the first thing Xiaodong did was to resign from the editor-in-chief. Lisa looked up at Xiaodong, who walked in. Xiaodong, you came at the right time. I have good news to tell you. Shenghao Group just sent a message saying that Bailey Han has agreed to do our interview, but he specifically asked you to do it. She didn't expect that Bailey Han would come to her so soon. Xiaodong took a deep breath and said straightforwardly, Sister Lisa, I'm sorry. I can't do this interview. I want to resign. Lisa was shocked. You've been doing well. Why do you suddenly want to resign? I haven't been feeling well recently. I want to rest for a while. On the way back to the company, Xiaodong had already thought of an excuse. But Lisa didn't agree with her resignation. If it's because of your health, I can help you get a month's leave. Xiaodong's attitude was firm. Lisa's persuasion didn't work for a while. Her face became serious. Xiaodong, to tell you the truth, Bailey Han is only willing to accept your interview. Even if you want to resign, you have to finish this interview first. If you don't do it, you have to pay the company a penalty of 150,000 yuan. Xiaodong silently added up all the deposits in her cards. There was only 140,000 yuan. If she compensated the company with all this money, she would have to eat the northwest wind in the future. Lisa saw her embarrassed expression and began to say good things. You've done well in the past 2 years. I've also seen it. It just so happens that the company is going to set up an office in Europe. If you want, I can put your name on it. Once you get there, You'll be in charge. Xiaodong's eyes suddenly lit up. If she went to Europe, she could get rid of Bailey Han. If she was pregnant, she could give birth to the child without any pressure. She grinned. Sister Lisa, I'll continue to do this interview, but I want to go to Europe. Come and see. Songshu 566. Chapter 10. Bailey Han sat behind a large desk. His tall and straight body made Xiaodong feel oppressed. His handsome face was expressionless, and his eyes were cold and deep. It was as if he could see her internal organs, making her shudder. Woman, we meet again. The corner of Xiaodong's mouth twitched. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you at all. Bailey Han sneered and mocked. You're really good at pretending. Are you Bailey Yan's woman? The janitor? When he saw how she escaped from the Shanghai building from the surveillance camera in the lobby, he was very angry, but at the same time, he couldn't help but admire her cleverness. Xiaodong lowered her head and continued to remain silent. Don't you want to explain? Xiaodong coughed and said with a smile. Actually, there's nothing to explain. We were both drunk that night. Yes, drunk. Bailey Han didn't give her any face and said coldly, drunk? Why did I hear that you were very sober? First you deliberately approached me, and then you played hard to get. What was your intention? Xiaodong pretended to be confused and blinked. What intention? I was really drunk. I thought you were a cowherd in the bar, so I even gave you a 500 yuan tip. Xiaodong's voice became softer and softer because she found that Bailey Han's face was getting uglier and uglier. In the end, he suddenly reached out and grabbed her neck. He gritted his teeth and said, Shut up. This was a stain in his life. He wanted to kill her to silence her. The undisguised murderous intent in his eyes made Xiaodong shiver. The strength on her neck was getting stronger and stronger. She felt so uncomfortable that she couldn't breathe. Her hands kept pulling his strong wrist. Let go of me, let go of me. Bailey Han looked at the woman in his arms, whose face was pale with pain. He suddenly let go of her and threw her away. Xiaodong was caught off guard and almost fell to the ground. She put her hands on the coffee table to steady herself, but her palms hit the corner of the coffee table, and it hurt. She bent over and coughed violently. She looked at him with teary eyes. You're crazy. Bailey Han pinched her chin and forced her to look into his eyes. Now it's time to tell the truth. What do you want? Xiaodong felt that she was really crazy. Why did she have to provoke this perverted man in the first place? I really didn't have any ulterior motives. Let's just pretend that this never happened, okay? I swear I won't cause you any trouble because of this. Bailey Han stared intently into her eyes. The tears in her large eyes had yet to dry, making her eyes look even more lustrous and bright. Her long eyelashes fluttered gently, like a butterfly in the rain, inexplicably enchanting. He slowly let go of her and pursed his lips. I can let you go, but you have to live in my house for the next 2 weeks. After I'm sure you're not pregnant, I'll let you go. Xiaodong hurriedly said. No, I can't live in your house. If she was really pregnant, wouldn't he find out? Bailey Han narrowed his eyes dangerously. You don't have the right to say no. But, Xiaodong was quick-witted. If I live in your house, your family will definitely not agree, and my boyfriend will also have a problem with it. Bailey Han's lips curved into a mocking smile. You don't have to worry about my family. As for your boyfriend, according to my investigation, you don't have a boyfriend. The only male friend you have is your friend's husband. Am I right? You actually investigated me. You're violating my privacy. Xiaodong glared at him fiercely. This is only a part of what I know. If you don't want your reputation to go down the drain, then do as I say. Bailey Han was like an ancient emperor. He was decisive and didn't allow anyone to refuse. Xiaodong knew that what he said was absolutely true. The wisest choice now was to do as he said. She slowly said, Okay, I agree to your conditions, but I have a request. I have to go home and pack my luggage first. Bailey Han knew that she couldn't play any tricks. No problem. I'll have 2 bodyguards protect you. The protection was a lie. The surveillance was the real deal. Xiaodong secretly rolled her eyes. I've cooperated with you so much. I've even signed a humiliating treaty. You have to cooperate with me. I have to hand in the manuscript for this interview by Friday. When do you have time? She hadn't forgotten the main purpose of her trip. I can do it now. Ask whatever you want. Bailey-han reached out and made a please gesture. He sat down in a casual and unrestrained manner. Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 11. Right now he looked very polite. He didn't look like someone who would strangle her. Xiaodong felt that he was a pervert. She silently labeled him as dangerous, stay away in her heart. Bailey-han was quite cooperative. He answered all of Xiaodong's questions. After all the questions were asked, Xiaodong said, Do you have time tomorrow? We need to take a set of photos for you. Bailey-han flatly refused. I only agreed to the interview. I didn't agree to take photos. Xiaodong patiently said, Taking photos is part of the interview. Since you agreed to do the interview, there's no reason not to take photos. This is already my bottom line. Bailey-han was not moved at all. He lowered his head and began to deal with the documents while saying, If there's nothing else, you can go home and pack your luggage. I'll send someone to pick you up downstairs. Okay, I got it. Xiaodong pretended to organize the documents and secretly adjusted the camera mode of her mobile phone. When she was about to go out, she quickly took a photo of him immersed in his work when he wasn't paying attention. When Xiaodong walked out of the Shenghao Group building, she was followed by 2 bodyguards. Bailey-han was preventing her from escaping. Xiaodong was worried that the 2 bodyguards would follow her to the magazine and cause unnecessary trouble, so she directly called to ask for leave, and then went home to pack her luggage. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Xiaodong received an unfamiliar phone call. It was a familiar voice from Bailey-han. Go downstairs. I'll give you 5 minutes. Xiaodong was speechless. This arbitrary man really thought that he was an emperor. When he gave an order, others had to immediately execute it. How annoying. After she got in the car, she found that Bailey-han was also sitting in the car. He was flipping through a document in his hand. He looked very busy. From the time she got in the car until the car started, he didn't look at her. She didn't want to pay attention to him. She leaned against the other side of the car, far away from him. When Bailey-han finished dealing with the documents, he found that Xiaodong had already curled up in the corner and fallen asleep. Under the bright light, she didn't seem to be sleeping very deeply. Her eyebrows were slightly wrinkled and her body was leaning towards him. Seeing that she was about to fall over, she suddenly straightened her body. Bailey-han thought that she was awake. He looked at her carefully and found that her eyes were still closed. She seemed to feel cold. She hugged her shoulders and curled into a ball. Bailey-han's eyes flashed. In the end, he raised the temperature of the air conditioner and dimmed the lights in the car. He simply stopped looking at the proposal and leaned against the back of the seat to rest. He didn't know how much time had passed when he suddenly felt a weight on his shoulder and a warm breath by his ear. Bailey-han suddenly opened his eyes. His cold gaze locked onto the culprit. The sleeping Xiaodong was leaning against his shoulder without any defense. Because they were very close, he could clearly see her long eyelashes. Seeing her like this, he couldn't help but think of what happened that night. A feeling of disgust rose from his heart. He forcefully pushed her head away, not caring if he would hurt her. Xiaodong's head suddenly hit the back of the seat. Although the back of the seat was very soft, she still woke up from the pain. She rubbed her head and looked around in confusion. She found that Bailey-han was looking at her with a tense face. His eyes were full of disdain. Don't come any closer. Xiaodong finally understood. It wasn't her who hit the back of the seat, but him who pushed her away. What a petty man. She rolled her eyes. Do you think I like to lean over? I was asleep. I couldn't help it, do you know that? Bailey-han glanced at her darkly. Could it be that you couldn't help it that night? Your character is questionable. You. Xiaodong turned her head angrily. A good woman doesn't fight with a man. I won't explain. To explain is to cover up. I'll endure it. I'll endure it. The car turned left and right in a villa area in the suburbs. Finally, it stopped in front of a luxurious villa near the lake. As soon as she entered the house, Xiaodong was stunned. The living room and the second floor were decorated with modern black tempered glass. The stairs and the floor were made of black variegated marble with waves. The black leather sofa and the black marble coffee table were shrouded in a low-key and luxurious yet stable and capable atmosphere. It was indeed the taste of an iceberg man like Bailey Han. Bailey Han called for a servant. "This is Nanny Wu. You can tell her if you need anything." Nanny Wu looked to be in her 50s. She had a gentle smile on her face. "Miss Xia, your room is on the second floor. Please follow me." The bodyguard helped her drag her luggage to the guest room on the east side of the second floor. The guest room was very large and had wide floor-to-ceiling windows. It had all the necessary facilities. There was a separate bathroom with beige walls. The dark wood furniture had an elegant charm. One look and one could tell that it was very expensive. There was also a small pink fabric sofa, a large white wardrobe, and the overall color was pink. Even the bedding was pink. She didn't expect Bailey Han to have such a love-struck guest room. Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 12. Nanny Wu led Xiaodong out and introduced politely. "Young master's room is next door. He prefers silence. The westernmost room is second young master's room." Xiaodong said, "Oh," and asked casually, "Do Mr. and Mrs. Bailey live on the third floor?" Nanny Wu smiled. "Master and Mrs. Han live in the old house. This is young master's villa. Only third miss occasionally comes here to stay for a few days. Third miss room is on the third floor. But miss is abroad now, so the upstairs has been empty." No wonder Bailey Han said that she didn't have to worry about his family not allowing her to move in. Although the room and bed were very comfortable, Xiaodong couldn't fall asleep in the middle of the night. She sneaked into the kitchen and opened the fridge to get some milk. When she turned around and saw someone standing behind her, she screamed in fright. Bailey Han stood in front of Xiaodong with a dark expression. No one would be happy to see someone screaming in the middle of the night. "Why aren't you sleeping? What are you doing here?" His voice was cold. Xiaodong smiled awkwardly. "I can't sleep, so I wanted to warm up a cup of milk to hypnotize myself." "You can't sleep either? Do you want a cup?" "No need." Leaving behind these three stiff words, Bailey Han turned around and went upstairs. He was still holding a cup of hot water that he had just poured. Xiaodong drank the milk and lay on the bed. Suddenly there was a thunderstorm outside. The sky outside the curtains was dark and scary. White lightning flashed across the sky from time to time. Xiaodong curled up in the quilt and shivered. Who would have thought that Xiaodong, who looked carefree and tough, was actually afraid of thunder? The thunder came one after another. Xiaodong shivered like a sieve. She didn't dare to get out of bed and draw the curtains. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door. "What's wrong with you?" It was Bailey Han's impatient voice. Xiaodong was still hiding under the blanket. She said in a muffled voice, "I am fine." She didn't want him to know that she was afraid of thunder. "If there's nothing else, then go to bed early. Don't disturb other people's rest." A slightly reproachful voice sounded. Xiaodong gritted her teeth. She knew that he was not so kind as to care about her. It turned out that he was annoyed by her shouting. Her stubbornness flared up. Although she was still extremely scared, she bit the towel in her mouth and didn't make another sound. With great difficulty he finally fell asleep. Xiaodong washed up and went downstairs. Bailey Han was already sitting in the dining room eating breakfast. His elegant behavior showed that he had good manners. "Good morning." Xiaodong greeted him. She didn't expect to hear a response from him, but he faintly said, "Mm." Xiaodong was led by Mother Wu to sit opposite him. The two of them ate breakfast in silence. Xiaodong was focused on the fried egg on her plate. She didn't notice that Bailey Han had finished eating. She even raised her hand to look at her watch twice. When she finally finished eating and put down her fork, Bailey Han suddenly stood up. "Mother Wu, let old Wang drive Miss Xia." Mother Wu responded and trotted out. "Sorry to trouble you." Xiaodong began to understand this man. He was well educated and looked like a gentleman. However, when facing people he didn't like, he couldn't hide the disdain in his eyes. He didn't take you seriously at all. He didn't even bother to pretend in front of you. Bailey Han looked at her expressionlessly. It's no trouble. After all, I don't feel safe leaving you alone. After work, Uncle Wong will wait for you downstairs. If you don't show up after 10 minutes, I'll take it that you're running away. You'll have to bear the consequences. 10 minutes? It takes 5 minutes to get from the office downstairs. What if I have something to do and can't leave? In her line of work, she had to work overtime from time to time. Time limits and whatnot were simply looking for trouble. That's your problem. It has nothing to do with me. Bailey Han got into the car and slammed the door shut, leaving her outside. Xia Dong unwillingly hit his car window. Hey, tell me clearly. If I run away, what will the consequences be? Bailey Han didn't even look at her. Drive. The car roared past Xia Dong and sprayed exhaust all over her face. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth. In the end, she angrily pointed her middle finger at the car's rear and fiercely gestured twice. This scene fell into the eyes of Assistant Lu Zihao through the rearview mirror. He quietly glanced at the CEO sitting in the back and saw that his lips were pursed. He seemed to be angry. He couldn't help but secretly wipe away the cold sweat on behalf of Miss Xia's courage. Coming out of the chief editor's office, Xia Dong was full of joy. She handed over the written interview article and the photos of Bailey Han that she secretly took to Lisa. She also reached an agreement with her. In 10 days, Xia Dong would be sent to the French office by the company. At that time, Bailey Han would never be able to control her again. But what if he used her aunt and uncle to threaten her? Suddenly thinking of this possibility, Xia Dong was shocked and broke out in cold sweat. She had to think of a way to satisfy both sides. For example, she could also use Bailey Han's weakness to threaten him. Awesome novel Songshu 566. Chapter 13. Xia Dong couldn't think of any good ideas until she got off work and got into Uncle Wong's car. However, it was always right to know one's enemy. She beat around the bush and got a lot of information about Bailey Han from Uncle Wong. The Bailey family was the biggest family in the city. Bailey Han's grandfather, Old Master Bailey, founded the Bailey Group, a huge family kingdom. They were involved in real estate, hotels, restaurants, department stores, and dozens of other industries. They had hundreds of subsidiaries around the world. Old Master Bailey had a son, a daughter, 2 grandsons, a granddaughter, and a grandson. The most important one was his eldest grandson, Bailey Han. However, Bailey Han didn't take over the Bailey family business as he wished. Instead, he founded the Shenghao Group himself. Bailey Han's business was founded by him alone. He didn't rely on the connections behind the Bailey family. Therefore, although Old Master Bailey was dissatisfied with him giving up the family business, he was still proud of him. Like Old Master, Old Madam Bailey's favorite grandson was Bailey Han. She had always wanted him to get married and have children. However, Bailey Han himself wasn't in a hurry at all. He was forced by Old Master and Old Madam to buy a villa and move out of the old house. However, he would return to the old house to visit his family on the 1st and 15th of every month. Xia Dong thought that perhaps she could start with Old Master and Old Madam. When she returned to the villa, Bailey Han's car just happened to drive into the garage. Gotcha! The door opened and Bailey Han appeared at the door with a sullen face. Behind him, there was a person. That person threw his suit jacket over his shoulder and swaggered in. His peach blossom eyes were slightly raised because of excitement. Hey, isn't this my baby? Why are you here? Seeing the person's blonde hair and hearing his frivolous question, Xia Dong couldn't help but facepalm. Who else could it be but Bailey Han's younger brother, Bailey Yun? Second young master, you can call me Xia Dong or Miss Xia. Bailey Yun grinned. Don't be so formal. I call you Xia Xia. You can call me Yin Yun. This is the second time we've met. It's better to be polite. I'll call you Bailey Yin. Xia Dong felt a chill run down her spine. When they first met, this guy was quite normal. Why was he acting so crazy now? Brother, so you're hiding a mistress in your golden house. No wonder you don't want me to live here. Bailey Yin narrowed his peach blossom eyes and stared at Bailey Han maliciously. Bailey Han's tense face turned even uglier. This guy's skin was thicker than the city walls. Even if he didn't agree, he still insisted. From today onwards I'll live here too. The three of us will start living together. Xia Xia, aren't you happy? Bailey Yin rubbed Xiaodong's hair as he talked to himself. He didn't care about Bailey Han's dark face at all. Happy? Of course not. Xiaodong took 2 steps back and distanced herself from the man who acted like they were close. Bailey Han's voice was icy. If anyone says anything about Xiaodong living here, I'll immediately throw you to Africa to feed the ostriches. Brother, I'm an upright and promising young man. You have to believe in my character. Bailey Yin patted Xiaodong's shoulder as if they were good buddies. Besides, Xia Xia and I are close. I won't make things difficult for her. Xiaodong slapped his hand away. How are we close? Don't talk nonsense. Okay, I'll take my luggage upstairs first. I'll come and play with you later, Xia Xia. Bailey Yin cheerfully dragged his luggage upstairs. Xiaodong looked at his back and said worriedly, Mr. Bailey, has your brother always been like this? Why was he acting so familiar with her? Bailey Han coughed awkwardly. Dirty linen shouldn't be aired in public. Soon it was time for dinner. The three of them sat at the same table. The sumptuous dinner on the table emitted a strong aroma. Bailey Yin greeted Xiaodong warmly. Xia Xia, my family chef was poached by me from a 5-star hotel. Come, try this chicken soup. Xiaodong glanced at Bailey Han, who hadn't taken any action yet. She smiled and was too embarrassed to take the lead. Bailey Yin scooped half a bowl of chicken soup and brought it to Xiaodong's hand. Drink it, Bailey Yin urged, his peach blossom eyes full of anticipation. Xiaodong took a small sip. It was indeed delicious. It's delicious. Bailey Yin smiled brightly. He twisted off a drumstick, wrapped the bone in a tissue and handed it to her. Xiaodong said thank you and took it. She took a bite, and her eyes immediately turned heart-shaped. It's delicious. Bailey Yin picked up a piece of lamb chop and put it on her plate. Try this. This is a charcoal grilled lamb chop specially sent over from Australia. It's said to be a newborn lamb. Even the bones are crispy. Xiaodong finished the bone and sighed with satisfaction. It's so delicious. Bailey Yin smiled with his eyes narrowed. Add. Hongcha 866. Chapter 14. Xiaodong suddenly realized that she had become a foodie. She quickly put a drumstick into his bowl and said, You should eat too. Bailey Yin smiled even more brightly. Bailey Han saw that smile. Their passionate interaction made him lose his appetite for food. He put down his chopsticks and went upstairs without saying a word, leaving behind a confused Xiaodong and a sneering Bailey Yin. What's wrong with your brother? Bailey Yin fed her a spoonful of soup. He's probably in a bad mood because he's too busy with work and entered menopause early. Don't worry about him. Let's continue eating. Xiaodong didn't react because she was listening to him attentively. She only came back to her senses when he fed her with the spoon in her mouth. She quickly took the spoon and smiled awkwardly. Thank you. I can do it myself. Bailey Yin rested his chin on one hand and smiled. Xia Xia, has anyone ever told you that you look cute when you blush? Xiaodong blushed even more. At the same time, she was sure of one thing. Bailey Yin must be an expert in love. He exposed his hooligan nature with just a few words. Bailey Yin poked her arm with his chopsticks. Seriously, what's your relationship with my brother? You're not his lover, are you? Ahem. Xiaodong choked at his words and waved her hands. Of course not. We have nothing to do with each other. I'm just staying here for a few days. I'll move out soon. Bailey Yin stroked her head as if he was petting a pet. That's good. Don't fall for him. He already has someone he likes. He's destined to make other women sad. Xiaodong held the soup bowl and blinked thoughtfully. The person Bailey Han liked should be the name he kept calling that night, Yin Qian. Bailey Han was very angry. That woman's methods were too clever. She had hooked up with Bailey Yin so quickly. The two of them were still whispering sweet nothings to each other in the dining room. This was simply too shameless. Half a month later, after confirming that she wasn't pregnant, he would immediately chase her out. Bailey Han was sulking in his room when someone knocked on the door. Xiaodong carefully walked in with a bowl full of hot soup. She smiled fawningly and said, You didn't eat anything just now. Have some soup. Otherwise, you won't be able to sleep later. Bailey Han looked up at her and ignored her. He was ignoring her. It was so awkward. Xiaodong shamelessly put the soup bowl on the desk and dilly-dallied, unwilling to leave. Bailey Han said coldly, "Is there anything else?" He finally paid attention to her. Xiaodong immediately sat opposite him and assumed a chatty posture. "If I'm pregnant in half a month, what are you going to do?" Bailey Han spat out 2 words without hesitation. "Abort." Xiaodong gasped. Although she had expected this result, she still wanted to fight for it. She asked fawningly, "Can you let me stay? I promise I won't cause you any trouble." "I will resign, leave this place, and find a place where no one knows me to raise the child." The more she spoke, the more excited she became. "Just take it that you're kindly donating your sperm to me. You don't have to feel pressured at all." Bailey Han looked at her as if she was an idiot. "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child who can be easily fooled? Except for Yun Qian, which woman didn't get close to him for his money and status?" This woman was speaking nicely now, but when she had a child in the future, she would definitely use this to blackmail him. Xiaodong anxiously raised her hand and swore. "I'm telling the truth. If you don't believe me, I can swear that if I'm lying, I'll be struck by lightning. If you still don't believe me, we can sign an agreement. I promise that after the child is born, the child and I will stay far away from you and never come back to disturb you." Bailey Han's deep eyes locked on her. He saw her anxious expression that was filled with anticipation. After a while, he curled his lips and said sarcastically, "I have to admit that you're really good at acting." Xiaodong rolled her eyes. "Do you think that all women get close to you for your money? I think you have serious persecutory delusions. I suggest you see a psychiatrist." Bailey Han stared at her for a moment with a sullen face and suddenly curled his lips. "You're doing the opposite. You're using psychological tactics well, but unfortunately, it doesn't work on me." Xiaodong was speechless. She finally saw how terrible stubborn men could be. They wouldn't believe you at all. "What do I have to do to make you believe me?" Add, Songshu 566. Chapter 15. Bailey Han's slender fingers held her chin. It was supposed to be a frivolous action, but he looked calm, as if it was how it should be. He said lightly, "It's very simple. As long as you abort the child, I'll believe you." Xiaodong wanted to explode, but she didn't dare to. If she angered him, then there would be no turning back. She clenched her fists and grinned. "Hey, I'm just chatting with you. Don't take it to heart. Maybe I'm not pregnant at all. You don't have to worry so much." "That's for the best." Bailey Han slowly retracted his hand. "You can leave now." Xiaodong counted on her fingers as she waited for 15 to arrive. However, instead of 15, she was met with Bailey Han's anger. Bailey Han threw the new issue of Shangmei magazine in front of Xiaodong with a livid face. "What's with the cover photo?" The man on the cover was dressed in a suit and leather shoes. He was working seriously with his head bowed. Although his face couldn't be seen, his mature charm couldn't be blocked. Xiaodong laughed dryly. "My photography skills aren't bad, right? Look, your face isn't exposed at all." "Shut up." Bailey Han couldn't wait to kill her with his eyes. "Publishing my photos without my permission? Your magazine company doesn't want to continue operating anymore, does it?" No. This is purely my personal behavior. It has nothing to do with the magazine. Please don't take your anger out on the magazine. I was wrong. I'll apologize, okay?" Xiaodong clasped her hands and pitifully tried to please him. A temporary sacrifice was necessary. She believed that he would do what he said. If the magazine was destroyed by him, how could she go abroad? How could she escape from his demonic grasp? "Brother, why are you so angry? Is it because Su Yunqian isn't here and you're full of lust that you haven't vented?" "Brother, my honest advice is that it's not good to keep holding it in. If you hold it in for too long, when you want to use it in the future, some of its functions will degrade." Bai Lian casually walked down the stairs. His pair of peach blossom eyes were filled with a malicious glint. "PFFF, Xiaodong didn't do it on purpose. Bailey Han's face darkened, and he glared at Xia Dong fiercely. Finally, his eyes fell on Bailey Yun, and he said gloomily, "It seems that you are very free. From tomorrow onwards, you will work in my company. If you still have nothing to do, you can go back to the old house." Bailey Yun put his feet together and gave a standard salute. "Yes, sir." Just like that, Bailey Yun covered up the matter of the candid photos. He secretly winked at Xia Dong and secretly made an okay gesture. Xia Dong gratefully clasped her fists. Ahem. Bailey Han coughed twice in displeasure. These two guys were openly flirting with each other. Did they think he was dead? On the 15th of tomorrow, you will go back to the old house with me. The first sentence was said to Bailey Yun, and then his eyes fell on Xia Dong. As for you, stay at home tomorrow. Xia Dong immediately said. Tomorrow is Sunday, a rare day off. I want to go shopping. Bailey Han said coldly, resistance is futile. If you need anything, give a list to Nanny Wu. She will buy it for you. Xia Dong said angrily. I want to buy something very private. I don't want others to know. Bailey Yun blinked and interrupted. How about this, brother? Let's go shopping with Xia Xia first. After sending her home, we will go back to the old house. Shut up. Bailey Han and Xia Dong shouted at him at the same time. Bailey Han was thinking, you are a scourge who wants to see the world in chaos. Xia Dong was thinking, I already said that it's something very private, but he still volunteered to accompany me. How ignorant. Bailey Han stood up and walked upstairs. He did not want to say anything more. It's settled then. If you need anything, ask Nanny Wu to buy it for you. The first step of the battle plan had failed, and the second step was carried out. That night, Xia Dong ate 5 popsicles and took an hour of cold shower. She successfully caught a cold before the next morning. Bailey Han stood by the bed and looked at Xia Dong's flushed face. He frowned and asked the private doctor Suja, who was giving her in 4 drip, how is she? Her fever is very serious. She should wake up after this bottle of 4 drip. In the afternoon, Xia Dong woke up. She was still a little confused and said in a hoarse voice, Bailey Han, I want to eat seafood porridge from Shaji. Can you help me call for takeout? Bailey Han glanced at Nanny Wu indifferently. Help her call for takeout. Bailey Yun ruffled her hair. Xia Xia, you go to Gigai and rest. We will be back early. Xia Dong knew that they were going to the old house, so she nodded obediently. Be careful. Awesome novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 16. Half an hour later, the delivery lady from Sha Restaurant appeared at the door of the villa. After the delivery lady finished, she suddenly held her stomach and screamed in pain. Mother Wu had no choice but to let her use the bathroom. 10 minutes later, Mother Wu watched the delivery lady leave. After the delivery lady walked out of the villa, she hurriedly got into a car parked on the side of the road. The car sped away. The delivery lady took off her mask and hat, revealing Xia Dong's pale face. The handsome man sitting in the driver's seat asked with concern, Xia Dong, are you okay? I'm fine, Shihao. Thank you so much for today. Thank you, Auntie Wang. Auntie Wang was the delivery lady from Sha Restaurant. Sha Restaurant was owned by Lin Shihao's mother, and Auntie Wang was a waitress there. She was very familiar with Xia Dong and Lin Shihao. Lin Shihao said, Why are you being so polite? Auntie Wang won't be in any danger, right? Xia Dong thought for a moment. She shouldn't be in any danger. In order to create an illusion, I deliberately tied Auntie Wang to the toilet. Bailey Han will think that I coerced Auntie Wang, and he won't think that I deliberately asked Auntie Wang to help me get away. Lin Shihao nodded. That's good. Siki has already packed your luggage. It's in the trunk. I'll take you to the airport now. On the way to the airport, it happened to be rush hour, so the road was very congested. Xia Dong nervously held the plane ticket in her hand, and an inexplicable uneasiness surged in her heart. Bailey Han wouldn't be home so early, right? After another hour of torment, the car finally arrived at the airport. There's still half an hour to boarding. Hurry up and get in. Remember to call us when you get off the plane. Be careful on the way. Lin Shihao dragged Xiaodong's luggage to the security checkpoint and kept reminding her along the way. Xiaodong was very grateful. Shihao, thank you. You and Yezi must be happy. I'll leave my aunt and uncle in your care. Yes, we will. Let's go in. Lin Shihao watched Xiaodong leave. Seeing her line up at the boarding gate, he slowly breathed a sigh of relief. She should be safe now. Make way, people in front, make way. Suddenly, a group of men in suits rushed in. Before Lin Shihao could figure out what was going on, he was pushed aside by the leader. The group of people rushed into the boarding gate and ran toward Xiaodong, who was waiting in line to board the plane. Just as Xiaodong was about to board the plane, she was pulled back by an arm. Let go of me. What are you doing? Let me go. Xiaodong punched and kicked the man. Just as she was about to break free from his arm, another man ran forward and grabbed her. Xiaodong, Xiaodong, what are you doing? Let her go. Lin Shihao was anxious to rush in, but he was stopped outside the security checkpoint by the security guards who came later. The leader of the security guards rushed in with his men and pointed his gun at them. What are you doing? Let go of this, miss. The men didn't let go. Instead, they surrounded Xiaodong as if to prevent her from escaping again. Just as they were in a deadlock, the sound of crisp footsteps was heard. A tall man walked over. Although he was only wearing a casual black suit with a white shirt, he had an innate charm and temperament. The expression on his face was as cold as ever, but the imposing aura he exuded couldn't be concealed. Lu Zihao followed closely behind him and explained to the leader of the security guards in a low voice. So it's young Master Bailey. It's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. The leader of the security guards quickly gestured for his subordinates to put away their guns. Bailey Han nodded lightly. Thank you for your hard work. Xiaodong was taken away by Bailey Han's men. No matter how unwilling Lin Shihao was, he could only watch helplessly. Let go of me, let go of me. You're kidnapping me. Xiaodong was dragged out of the airport by 2 bodyguards to a Maybach. Bailey Han threw her into the back seat with a cold face. His eyes were malicious and cold, but his voice was calm. You've got guts. How dare you run away? He was having dinner with his family in the old mansion when he received a call that Xiaodong was missing. He rushed all the way, but fortunately, he caught her before she boarded the plane. After this period of contact, Xiaodong more or less understood Bailey Han's temper. The angrier he was, the calmer he sounded, but in fact, a terrible storm was brewing. Xiaodong's hopes were dashed when he was caught just as he was about to succeed. Instead, he felt like he was ready to risk everything. He raised his head and shouted, Yes, I ran away. What can you do to me? Come and see. Xinwu 799. Chapter 17. Bailey Han looked at the stubborn woman in front of him. His deep eyes were burning with anger, and his lips were tightly pursed. It seems that your memory isn't very good. You've already forgotten what I said last time. Let me remind you again. If you dare to run away again, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Seeing her eyes suddenly shrink, he sneered and continued. Perhaps you still don't understand what I mean, but I don't mind talking to your aunt about this. Don't worry, I'll take good care of them. Xiaodong clenched her fists and tried to control the urge to punch his beautiful face. She gritted her teeth and said, Bailey Han, you're shameless. Bailey Han said indifferently, I won't let you down. Back at the villa, Xiaodong finally understood what he meant. There was no limit to how shameless he could be. He would only be more shameless. Because of Xiaodong's escape, all the bodyguards in the villa were punished. Nanny Wu was also fired and replaced with the stern-looking Nanny Zhou. As for the culprit, Xiaodong, she was placed under house arrest in the basement. There was half a window in the basement that was connected to the ground. Because there was no light all year round, the narrow space emitted a moldy smell. Xiaodong's current residence was a single bed and a temporary bathroom. This was her current residence. She had been treated like a VIP before, but now she was treated like a prisoner. Bailey Han said coldly, You'll stay here for the next 3 days. I've already asked someone to help you apply for leave from the magazine. Xiaodong, who was held by 2 bodyguards, struggled desperately. Bailey Han, this is kidnapping. You have no right to put me under house arrest. You have no right to negotiate with me either. Bailey Han looked at her coldly and turned to leave. With a bang, the door was closed. Xia Dong pounded on the door like a madwoman. Let me out, Bailey Han, you lunatic, let me out. But no matter how she screamed, no one paid her any attention. Xia Dong had not recovered from her cold yet. After such a torment, she broke out in a cold sweat. The night wind blew in through the window, making her shiver. In the middle of the night, there was a thunderstorm, and the thunder rumbled. Xia Dong's body was boiling hot, and she was having a nightmare. In the dream, it was also raining cats and dogs. A thin and weak woman sat in the rain, hopelessly looking at the back of a man who was walking further and further away. Beside her, a 5 or 6-year-old girl was timidly shaking the woman's arm, as if trying to pull her up from the ground. Suddenly, a flash of lightning opened a hole in the sky, followed by the sound of thunder. The girl was so scared that she started crying. The thunder in the dream matched the thunder outside the window. The muffled sound was like a bell from hell. Mommy, mommy. Xia Dong frowned in her unconsciousness. Tears fell from the corners of her tightly shut eyes, and she trembled unconsciously. Outside the villa, there was a thunderstorm, and inside the villa, there was a knock on the door. Outside Bailey Han's room on the second floor, Bailey Yun's face was ugly, and he knocked hard on the door. Bailey Han's sleep was interrupted, and his face was ugly. What's the matter? Where's Xia Dong? Bailey Yun had just returned from the old mansion. When he came back, he went to Xia Dong's room to see her. However, the room was empty, and there was no one in sight. He asked around, but no one told him. Everyone was stammering with a fearful expression. Bailey Yun understood that Bailey Han had ordered them not to say anything. In the basement, Bailey Han looked calm, as if he was talking about the weather today. Basement? You actually locked her in the basement. Bailey Yun really wanted to throw a punch at his iceberg face. Do you know that she's still sick? Bailey Han was expressionless. It's none of your business. Bailey Yun shook his head. Bailey Han, you're such a jerk. He turned around and quickly went downstairs. The door to the basement was locked by a large iron lock. Bailey Yun couldn't find the key, so he took a toolbox and bent down to tinker with the door for a long time. With a click, the large iron lock was unlocked. Bailey Yun happily pushed the door open. Xia, I'm here. Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly felt a pain in the back of his head. His eyes rolled back, and his body fell to the ground. A bodyguard in black caught him. Awesome novel, Xinwu 799. Chapter 18. Bailey Han stood indifferently in the corridor. Take him back to his room. The basement was brightly lit, and the person on the bed was curled up in a ball under the quilt. She seemed to be in a deep sleep, and did not wake up even after such a big commotion. Bailey Han casually pulled the door shut and locked it again. The next day, the weather was very clear. If it were not for the layer of dew on the green lawn, it would be almost impossible to tell that it had rained heavily last night. Bailey Han sat in the sunny dining room and had breakfast. Nanny Zhou was ordered to bring breakfast to Xia Dong in the basement. Bailey Yun came downstairs with a livid face. What do you want to let her out of the basement? Bailey Han ate his breakfast gracefully and did not answer his question at all. Bailey Yun's eyes turned cold. Bailey Han. Bailey Han's voice was indifferent. This is not something you can handle. You just need to take care of yourself. Bailey Yun stared at Bailey Han, but Bailey Han did not seem to see it and focused on the breakfast on his plate. Young master, something bad has happened. Nanny Zhou hurried over with a touch of anxiety on her serious face. I just brought breakfast to Miss Xia, and found her lying motionless on the bed. She seems to be seriously ill. Inform Suja. Bailey Yun snatched the key from Nanny Zhou's hand and rushed to the basement. I'm sorry, eldest young master. Nanny Zhou hurriedly apologized. Eldest young master had said that the key could not be given to anyone, but now it was snatched away by second young master. Bailey Han looked at Bailey Yun's back and frowned slightly. Bailey Yun hurriedly opened the basement door, and saw Xia Dong curled up on the bed. She was obviously unconscious, and was moaning softly. Her face was burning red and her eyebrows were tightly knitted in pain. His chest felt as if it had been hit by something, and he also felt a dull pain. He hurriedly carried her up with the quilt. It hurts, it hurts. The person in his arms moaned in pain. It doesn't hurt anymore, it doesn't hurt anymore. I'll take you to see a doctor right away. Bailey Yin walked upstairs hurriedly and patted her back gently to comfort her. His comforting voice seemed to have an effect. The person in his arms slowly calmed down, but her tightly knitted eyebrows did not relax. Her dry lips moved slightly as if she was saying something. Bai Liyun bent down so that he could hear what she was saying. Suddenly, her hand reached out from under the blanket and hugged him tightly. That was so strange, yet so clear. The intense. Xia Dong's lips moved again. This time, he finally heard what she was mumbling. Mommy, I miss you so much. Bailey Yun's face darkened. This girl actually thought of him as her own mother. Although he was very angry, he still hugged her tightly. He quickly looked around and saw that there was no one around. Then he lowered his voice and replied awkwardly, "Be good, I'm here." Xia Dong made a sound of acknowledgement and quieted down. Bailey Yun's face darkened even more. Suja quickly rushed over and gave Xia Dong a bottle of water. He couldn't help but complain. Didn't she get better yesterday? Why did she suddenly have a fever? How are you taking care of her? 2 grown men can't even take care of a patient? Suja was not only Bailey Han's personal doctor, but also his good friend. Therefore, he didn't hold back when he spoke. Bailey Yun sneered. You should ask brother about this. He knows best. When Xia Dong woke up, it was already evening. Her clothes were drenched in sweat and stuck to her body. It was very uncomfortable. She lifted the blanket and planned to take a shower. Only then did she realize that she had returned to the guest room on the 2nd floor. She had just taken a few steps when the room door suddenly opened. Bailey Yun walked in and shouted, "Hey, why are you up? Lie down." Xia Dong pursed her dry lips. "I want to take a shower." Her voice was so hoarse that even Xia Dong herself was shocked. Bai Liyun walked over quickly, grabbed her arm, and supported her to the head of the bed. He nagged, "If you're sick, you should rest well. Why are you taking a bath? What if you fainted in the bath by yourself? If you don't feel well, I'll get someone to help you wipe your body. Come and see." Hongcha 866. Chapter 19. Xia Dong turned to look at him. His handsome face was filled with dissatisfaction, and his thin lips were muttering nonstop. She couldn't help but find it funny. She pouted and said, "Old mother. Hey, I have a bad temper. You still dare to laugh at me, right?" Bai Liyun used his free hand to knock her head, his face full of fake anger. Xia Dong laughed. Although her voice was hoarse and unpleasant, it didn't affect her good mood at all. It was as if she was grabbing his pigtails. She called out again, old mother, you heartless girl." Bailey Yun was angry and amused at the same time. He rubbed her messy hair hard, and his long peach blossom eyes shone with joy. "Are you hungry? I asked Nanny Zhou to make porridge for you." With his reminder, Xia Dong finally felt hungry. Her stomach grumbled, and she nodded obediently. "I'm hungry. Wait here. I'll get it for you right away." Bailey Yun carefully pulled the blanket over her before leaving. Xia Dong drank 2 bowls of porridge. She wanted a 3rd bowl, but Bailey Yun snatched the empty bowl away. "You're not allowed to eat anymore. You just woke up. Eating too much will hurt your stomach. Rest for a while. I'll ask Nanny Zhou to help you wipe your body later." Xia Dong hurriedly said, "No need. I'm not used to it. I'm much better now. I can take a bath myself." She looked at him suspiciously. "Really? More real than a pearl." Bailey Yin smiled. "All right then. Go in and take a bath yourself. But I have to stand guard at the door. If you faint, I can immediately rush in to save you." "I don't want to. You don't trust me." He stood guard outside the door. Although they were separated by a door, Xia Dong still felt awkward. He knocked on her forehead. "I'm being responsible for your body." He raised his peach blossom eyes and smiled mischievously. "Who asked me to be your old mother? Wasn't this like shooting yourself in the foot?" Xia Dong went into the bathroom to take a shower. As expected, Bailey Yin moved a chair to guard the door. The engraved glass door blocked out the spring scenery inside. The sound of water splashing entered his ears. Bailey Yin only felt that his heart was being scratched by a cat's paw. It was itchy, and a certain part of his body began to awaken. He had lived a dissolute life abroad for a long time, and had many women. He understood his current physical feelings, but he was unfamiliar with the tingling feeling in his heart. Although he had slept with many women, he had never loved a woman. The sound of running water suddenly stopped. After a while, there was still no sound. Bailey Yin's heart tightened, and he hurriedly knocked on the bathroom door. Xia, are you okay? I am fine. I'm done showering. Xia Dong's voice trembled a little, and she was a little embarrassed. Bai Liyun heaved a sigh of relief, and then his body tensed up again. She had already finished bathing, and now, she was wiping her body. His mind involuntarily outlined her graceful figure, and the soft feeling when he hugged her in the morning was still fresh in his mind. Just thinking about it made his lower abdomen tighten even more, and it burned uncomfortably. Just as he was feeling uncomfortable, the bathroom door opened. Due to Bai Liyun's presence, Xia Dong did not wear a bathrobe after her bath. Instead, she changed into a long shirt and trousers, wrapping herself up tightly. After the steam evaporated, her skin became rosy, and her exposed neck and cheeks were like tender peaches that made people want to take a bite out of them. Bailey Yin felt even more uncomfortable. Seeing his strange expression, Xia Dong felt a little uncomfortable and quickly diverted his attention. Well, thank you so much for today. If it weren't for you, I would still be in the basement. I remember that I still have something to do. I'll leave first. Have a good rest. Bailey Yin almost fled. He was afraid that he would turn into a wolf and pounce on her if he stayed any longer. Strange, why did he run so fast? Xia Dong frowned and muttered as she began to wipe her wet hair. For the next 2 days, Bailey Han was nowhere to be seen. It was said that he was abroad on a business trip, but even if he was not there, Xia Dong could not find a chance to slip away. Nanny Zhou followed Xia Dong closely like a shadow. Even if Xia Dong went to the bathroom, she would also guard the door. Being watched all day long, it was impossible for her to contact anyone. Xia Dong was about to break down. Fortunately, Bailey Yin was by her side. Although this guy looked unreliable, he was good at killing time. He brought 2 laptops over, and the 2 of them sat on the sofa to play games. Xia Dong also thought of a way to contact Yisiki. Xia Dong was obsessed with a certain online game for a period of time, so she was very active in promoting it to Yisiki. Without a doubt, Yisiki also fell for it. If she did not hang up the computer, she would feel uncomfortable all over, as if she was addicted to drugs. While Nanny Zhou was not paying attention, Xia Dong quickly clicked on Yisiki's profile picture and typed a line of words. Then, she quickly closed the chat box. She nervously picked up the teacup and took a sip while muttering in her heart, God bless Yezi, you must hang up the computer. Otherwise, my little life will be over. On the 3rd day, Bailey Han finally returned. Along with him was the private doctor, Suja. After a series of examinations, Suja very seriously concluded that Xia Dong was pregnant. Add. Songshu 566. Chapter 20. Although Bailey Han had already mentally prepared himself, his expression still darkened when he heard the result. Xia Dong was both happy and sad. She was happy that she was finally pregnant, but sad that she didn't know if she could be saved. Perform the operation immediately and abort the baby. Bailey Han's expression was cold. Xia Dong had already expected this result, so she didn't cry or make a fuss. She just calmly touched her flat belly. Can you give me a day? I want to accompany him one last time. Bailey Han's eyes narrowed. I don't want to delay any longer. He had already seen this woman's superb acting skills, and didn't want to give her another chance to escape. Although Nanny Zhou had reported that she was very obedient when he was on a business trip, he didn't want to take the risk. Xia Dong laughed self-deprecatingly. I'm now a fish on the chopping board at your mercy. Do you think I can still escape? She looked down at her belly with a touch of sadness. Actually, I really like this child. Although I can't keep him, please let me feel him for a while longer. I beg you. Please. This was the first time he had heard her say the word please. There was a strange feeling in his heart, but he didn't compromise. Suja, contact the hospital. I'll take her for the operation this afternoon. It was April and the sun was very warm. Xia Dong sat on a white bench in the garden. The spring flowers in front of her were bright and butterflies fluttered in the air. She suddenly felt unreal, and was deeply afraid of the future. She didn't know if Yi Siki had seen her message and if they had succeeded. In a few hours, Bailey Han would take her to the hospital for the operation. And the poor child in her belly would leave before he could even see this beautiful spring. Xia Dong covered her face with her hands. She was exhausted, as if all the energy in her body had been sucked out. A tall figure blocked the sunlight in front of her. Bailey Yin looked at the woman in front of him, who was covering her face with her hands. He had long expected her relationship with Bailey Han to be special, but he didn't expect it to have developed to this point. In the garden, she sat quietly and he stood quietly, looking at her in silence. They didn't know that there was another person standing by the window on the second floor, looking at them expressionlessly. After a while, Bailey Yin grinned and pretended to laugh lightly. I couldn't find you anywhere. So you were hiding here. Xia Dong hurriedly raised her head. Her beautiful eyes were still filled with confusion and sadness that she had not been able to hide in time. Bai Li Yun's heart skipped a beat, and the smile on his face froze. He sat beside her and asked, "What happened? You don't look happy." Xia Dong shook his head. "It's nothing. The sun is too glaring." Bai Li Yun held her hand and grinned. "We're friends, aren't we? If you have any difficulties, tell me. I can help you." He smiled brightly, and his expression was unprecedentedly serious. Xia Dong's heart warmed. At this moment, she officially added Bailey Yin to her list of friends. However, she didn't want him to look down on her. She didn't want him to misunderstand that she was a vain woman like Bailey Han said. She slowly pulled her hand back and smiled. "I'm really fine. Thank you." The hospital was filled with the smell of disinfectant. Before Xia Dong entered the operating room, she glanced at Bailey Han and said calmly, "Bailey Han, after the operation, I don't owe you anything." Bailey Han's deep eyes narrowed. He watched expressionlessly as the nurse pushed her into the operating room. Suja smiled bitterly. "Han, it's not too late to change your mind now." Bailey Han said indifferently, "There's no need. Miss Xia, please relax. We're going to inject you with anesthesia now." Xia Dong quietly allowed the nurse to inject a needle into her arm. The cold liquid entered her body, and soon, she began to lose consciousness. Her eyelids felt heavy, as though they were carrying thousands of kilograms of weight, but she still tried her best to keep her eyes open. The swaying silhouettes in front of her eyes became countless. Someone pulled her legs apart, and someone brought in a tool. She could almost feel the instant when the cold metal touched her skin, causing her to convulse. Late. Everything was too late. Helplessness. Despair. Tears flowed silently from the corners of her eyes. "Sorry, baby. Mommy didn't protect you well." "Stop." Just as Xia Dong was in despair, the door of the operating room was slammed open. Ad. Xingwu 799. Chapter 21. An old madam with a head full of silver hair stood at the door, holding a mahogany walking stick. She stomped the floor angrily with her walking stick. "All of you stop. If you hurt my precious little great-grandson, I'll teach you a lesson." "Grandma, why are you here?" Bailey Han didn't expect the old madam to suddenly appear at this juncture. Old Madam Bailey was so angry that she was trembling all over. "Why am I here? If I didn't come, you would have killed my little great-grandson. I don't have such an unfilial grandson like you. Get out of my way." Old Madam Bailey raised her walking stick and hit Bailey Han, chasing him and the doctors and nurses out of the operating room. Only she and Xia Dong were left in the operating room. Xia Dong was in a daze. She only heard someone making a big fuss, and finally, someone said in her ear, "Don't worry, I'll keep your child." She finally fell asleep with peace of mind. In the living room of the Bailey mansion, Old Master Bailey, who was sitting in the patriarch's seat, had a livid expression. The old madam beside him had a calm expression, while Bailey Xiong and Bai Jinxiu's expressions were not very good either. Bailey Yin crossed his legs and looked casually at Bailey Han sitting next to him. Old Master Bailey slammed the table and roared, "Bailey Han, you're getting bolder and bolder. How dare you do such a disgraceful thing? What do you have to say now?" Bailey Han said indifferently, "If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. I have nothing to say." Bailey Xiong, who was standing at the side, was fuming with rage. "You unfilial son. How dare you say such disgraceful words? Where did all your upbringing go? Apologize to Grandpa." Bailey Han curled his lips contemptuously. "You don't have the right to lecture me. You unfilial son?" Bailey Xiong was so angry that his whole body trembled. Bailey Han sneered, "Be careful of your high blood pressure. I advise you not to get angry. Bai Jinxiu, this is your good son." The Bailey couldn't win against his son, so he directly targeted his wife, Bai Jinxiu, who was watching coldly. The old master slammed his palm on the table and said sternly, "That's enough. Stop arguing. Get out of here if you keep arguing. A crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. I'm going to clean up the Bailey family's atmosphere today. Old Lin, punish me." The old master came from a military background, and his upbringing was very strict. Whenever his descendants made a mistake, they would be punished by the family law. His so-called family law was to whip them with a leather whip. As soon as housekeeper Old Lin heard the old master's order, he immediately ran to the old master's study to get the whip. Old Lin quickly fetched a whip. The old master held the whip in his hand, looking like he was about to teach him a lesson. Only then did the old mistress speak. "That's enough, old man. You're not young anymore. Why are you still so hot-tempered? For Ahan to make such a mistake, was it something that could be solved with a whip? Instead of beating him up, it would be better for everyone to discuss how to deal with him. I think that girl is also pregnant with Ahan's child. Why don't you marry her?" No. The ones who objected in unison were Bai Jinxiu and Bailey Yun, who had been silent all this time. The old mistress rolled her eyes at Bailey Yun in annoyance. "It's none of your business here. Stay here and don't interrupt. As for your daughter-in-law, tell me why you object." Bai Jinxiu's delicate and beautiful face didn't show any traces of age. She said indifferently, "Mom, Ahan also said that it was just an accident that he had sex with that woman. Moreover, that woman met in that kind of place. Who knows if she's clean or not? Maybe she already knew Ahan's identity and deliberately threatened him with the child to enter our Bailey family. It's not like this hasn't happened before." As soon as she said this, Bailey Xiong, who was already feeling guilty, lost his composure and glared at her fiercely. She acted as if she didn't see it. Her expression was still indifferent, but there was a hint of mockery at the corner of her lips. "So, I don't agree with Ahan marrying that woman." Bailey Yin lowered his eyes. No one noticed the complicated look that flashed across his eyes. He didn't interrupt and focused on playing with the teacup in his hand, but his knuckles were slightly white. The old mistress was obviously dissatisfied with Bai Jinxiu's oblique words. She frowned and asked, "Ahan, what do you say?" Bailey Han said in a low voice, "I won't marry her. Give her a sum of money, get rid of the child, and don't let her appear in the Bailey family again." The old mistress and the old master looked at each other. The old master took a sip of tea and said slowly, "You don't have to marry her, but you must keep the child. We're old, and our bodies are getting weaker day by day. Our biggest wish now is to hold a little great-grandchild. Even if we die one day, we'll have the face to see the ancestors of the Bailey family." Bailey Han frowned. "Grandpa, Grandma, you're still very healthy. Yunqian will come back from England in 5 years at the latest. We'll get married as soon as possible, and let you hold your great-grandchild as soon as possible." 5 years. The old mistress exclaimed. "For people like us who have one foot in the coffin, how can we wait for 5 years? Bailey Han, oh Bailey Han, you want me, an old lady, to kneel in front of the ancestral tablets in the temple, don't you? Okay, I'll go kneel now. Don't stop me." The old mistress was decisive. She stood up and walked to the temple. Her slightly trembling appearance made everyone feel that she was about to collapse, but she walked very steadily and quickly. Except for Bailey Yun, the younger generation hurriedly rushed to stop her. They hugged her waist and grabbed her arms. After a long struggle, they finally stopped. "Let go of me. Let this unfilial daughter-in-law kneel in front of the ancestors." "Mom, calm down, calm down." Before Bailey Xiong could finish comforting her, the old mistress began to sob and wipe her tears again. "You all make me worry. You're all heartless." The old mistress began to scold them one by one, from the cheating son to the indifferent daughter-in-law, and then to the unfilial grandson. In the end, she cried until she fainted. The family was in a panic again. Suja quickly rushed over to check on the old mistress's condition. He said that she was anxious and needed to relax and have a good rest. The old master fumed and scolded everyone. Then, he sent Bailey Han to the temple to reflect on his mistakes. Only then did he leisurely sit by the bed and say, "That's enough, wife. There's no one here. Stop pretending." The old mistress immediately opened her eyes and said with a smile, "Old man, how's my acting?" The old master gave her a thumbs up. "You're getting better and better. Even Suja didn't notice your flaws." The old mistress beamed with joy, but her smile didn't last long. She frowned and said, "According to Ahan's stubborn temper, he won't agree to keep the child if I don't act ruthlessly. I think this show has to continue." The old master sighed. "If it weren't for my deteriorating health, I wouldn't have pushed him so hard. I hope that girl, Yinqian, can tolerate this child in the future. I don't want her to be like eldest brother and the others." The old mistress's nose twitched. She patted the back of his hand and said, "Old man, don't worry. I'm here to watch over them. No matter what, I won't let a second Lu Xiaoxiao come and destroy our family." The old master looked at the face in front of him that was no longer young. His brows relaxed and he showed a rare tenderness. "Wife, it's been hard on you all these years." The old mistress looked at him reproachfully. "We're already an old couple. Why are you saying this?" The farce in Bailey's house happened when Xia Dong was unconscious. When she woke up, it was already dusk. The setting sun penetrated the thin gauze curtains into the room and poured on the old woman sitting by her bed. The old woman's silver hair was neatly combed behind her ears. She was dressed luxuriously but not vulgarly. Her face was rosy and kind. Seeing that Xia Dong had woken up, she smiled gently. "You're awake. Are you hungry? I asked the servants to make porridge for you. Do you want to eat some first?" Xia Dong thought for a moment and knew that she was in the old Bailey mansion. The old woman in front of her was Bailey Han's grandmother, the old mistress of Bailey. She had heard her voice before she was anesthetized and still remembered her. Although she had a lot of questions to ask, she still had the strength to eat, so she nodded politely. "Thank you, old mistress." The old mistress nodded secretly. After waking up, she didn't panic and dealt with it calmly. When she thought of the message that Lu Xiaoxiao had asked her to save her from the operating table, she knew that this child was scheming. After eating and drinking, it was time to talk about business. The old mistress smiled. "You're smart. You knew that Ahan didn't want to keep the child. You asked your friend Yisiki to send me a letter. How did you know that I would keep the child? After all, the child's background is unknown." Xia Dong pursed her lips. "There's a saying that goes, it's better to kill the wrong person than to let the wrong person go. I'm like this to you, old mistress, and I think you're like this to me. I don't want to let go of any hope, and old mistress won't let go of any chance that the child might be Bailey Han's child." The old mistress nodded approvingly. "Since you're a sensible person, I'll get straight to the point. I hope you can keep the child. After you give birth to the child, I'll give you a sum of money, enough for you to live a prosperous life. The condition is that you can never appear in Bailey's house again. And you can't have any involvement with the child. You can't have any thoughts that you shouldn't have." Xia Dong's fingers turned white as she held the teacup. Her eyes shone with determination. "Old mistress's conditions are reasonable, but I have a condition of my own." "Speak." "My condition is that if the child is a son, I'll leave the child with Bailey's house. If the child is a daughter, I'll take her away. I won't ask for a single cent from you." Of course, I'll still promise that I'll never appear in Bailey's house again, and I'll never have anything to do with Bailey Han again. The old mistress didn't answer. She just looked at Xiaodong calmly. Xiaodong looked calm and composed on the surface, but she was actually very nervous. If the old mistress didn't agree to her conditions, there was nothing she could do. It seemed like a fair deal, but in fact she didn't have any right to decide. However, she wouldn't compromise. She wanted to fight for the best for herself and her child. The old mistress said slowly, "What if I don't agree?" Beauty novel Xinwu 799. Chapter 22. Xiaodong tightened her grip on the teacup and said word by word, "At worst, I'll fight to the death." Madame Gu sneered. "Do you think you can threaten me?" "No," Xiaodong said seriously. "I know I don't have the ability to negotiate with you, but please understand my feelings from the perspective of a mother." It was not certain whether the child would be a boy or a girl. She just wanted to gamble with her own child. Madame Gu lowered her eyes. If she gave birth to a son, the Bailey's family would have a new heir. If she gave birth to a daughter, she could take her daughter away, which would be a relief for Ahan. After all, Ahan agreed to keep the child reluctantly. "Okay, I can agree with your request." However, Madame Gu changed the topic and her eyes became very sharp. "If you play tricks or cause trouble for the Bailey's family after giving birth to the child, I will make you pay a heavy price. I think you know how powerful the Bailey's family is in City A." Xiaodong smiled bitterly. "I understand, Madame Gu. I won't be stupid enough to cause trouble for myself." The old madam nodded her head in satisfaction and said with a pleasant expression, "What a sensible child. Well, from today on you will move to the old house, and it will be convenient for us to take care of you." Xiaodong politely refused. "Madame Gu, I appreciate your kindness, but I don't want to move to the old house. Firstly, it's because I have my own family. I want to live with them and don't want them to worry. Secondly, the Bailey's family is very influential in City A. I don't want to be caught by the media and cause any trouble." "Your thinking makes sense. How about this? Before your belly shows up, you'll stay at home. You'll still let Ahan's old Wang drive you to and from work every day. However, after your belly shows up, no matter what, you'll have to move to the old mansion. If necessary, you can even quit your job." Old Madam paused and explained, "I'm doing this for your own good. Firstly, it was dangerous to go to work with a big belly. Secondly, it would arouse criticism from others. After all, Xiaodong was not married yet. If she was labeled as pregnant before marriage, it would definitely embarrass her." Although Old Madam did not say it explicitly, Xiaodong understood what she meant. She smiled and said, "I understand. I will handle it well. Thank you, Old Madam." The old lady glanced out of the window and said, "It's getting late. You can stay here for the night. I'll ask Old Wang to send you home tomorrow." The old lady gave a few more words of advice before leaving. Xiaodong felt a little bored and wanted to go out for a walk. However, he was afraid that it would be awkward if he met the Bailey family, so he could only stay in the room and read a magazine. The door of the room opened with a click. Xiaodong looked up and saw the person who came in. He was stunned. "What? Are you stunned by how handsome I am?" Bailey Yun, who was leaning against the door with his arms crossed, laughed mockingly. Xiaodong felt a little uncomfortable. "You know everything, right?" Bailey Yun closed the door and walked over. "What are you referring to? Is it your accidental pregnancy, my brother wanting to abort your child, or my grandmother wanting to keep the child?" He did not mean to mock her, but Xiaodong felt a little uncomfortable. This was the first time she had faced up to her accidental pregnancy. No matter how good her reason was, it could not cover up the fact that she had done something dishonorable. She could not blame Bailey Han for treating her so badly. Xiaodong almost did not dare to look into his eyes. She lowered her head and said with difficulty, "Do you also think that I am a greedy woman who deliberately got close to Bailey Han for money and got pregnant on purpose?" Silence. He did not speak. She felt more and more uncomfortable. She was right. Her eyes were sore and tears were about to come out. You're not. I know you're not. A pair of arms supported her, who had her head lowered, and then he pulled her into his arms. His voice was faint and gentle. The Xia I know has never been a greedy woman. Her tears finally fell. Xia Dong bit her lip, and did not let herself cry. She secretly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, and pretended to smile casually. Bailey Yun, you really trust people easily. Bailey Yun rubbed her hair, and smiled ambiguously. I only trust people I'm willing to believe. Oh, Xia Dong answered sullenly and pushed his arm. Let go of me. If someone finds out. Before she could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by the sound of the door opening. Bailey Han appeared in Xia Dong's line of sight with a cold face. Behind him was Bai Jinxiu, who also had a cold face. Xia Dong hurriedly pushed Bailey Yin away. Sand got into my eyes just now, so Bailey Yin helped me blow them out. Bailey Han sneered. Sand got into your eyes. Do you need to hold it so tightly? Bai Jinxiu was even more direct. She said disdainfully, I told you that this woman's background is unclear and dirty. She's indeed a vixen. Bailey Yun spread his hands helplessly. Auntie brother, you've really misunderstood. Xia and I are just ordinary friends. Bai Jinxiu sneered. Xia? How affectionate. I'm not blind yet. I've seen what I should and shouldn't see. Han, let's go. Bailey Han pursed his lips and left without looking at Xia Dong again. I'm sorry, Xia. I just wanted to comfort you. I didn't expect things to turn out this way. Bailey Yin looked guilty. Xia Dong grinned. It's none of your business. I know you're just being kind. Don't think too much about it. You're tired today. You'd better rest early. Bailey Yin gave a few more words of advice before leaving. He closed the door behind him and faced the corridor with the murals hanging on it. His sexy thin lips slowly curved into a strange smile. His deep eyes were cold, and there was no warmth in them. Xia Dong leaned against the headboard and made a phone call. She was a little depressed. Yezi, don't you think I'm very selfish? Yi Siki paused for a moment. You're indeed a little selfish. In order to have this child, you've tortured a lot of people. But I'd rather you be selfish and live the life you want to live. Ever since I met you, you've been very sensible. So sensible that it makes my heart ache. Xia Dong was silent for a long time before she said in a hoarse voice. Yezi, luckily you saw my message in the game. I haven't thanked you for helping me send a letter to Bailey Han's grandmother. When I get home tomorrow, I'll treat you to a big meal. Ask your old Lin to come too. Forget about my old Lin. We're having a gathering. Wouldn't a man like him be a hindrance if he comes along? I'll have a good chat with you tomorrow about the rules for pregnant women that I've summarized. Sure, especially how to give birth to a daughter. If you have any magic weapons, please don't hesitate to tell me. She originally wanted to see how that woman was doing, but she didn't expect to see her flirting with Bailey Yun. Bailey Han pulled off his tie in annoyance and threw it on the sofa. The video system with sensor equipment automatically turned on. The huge LCD screen on the wall turned from black to blue, and from blue to clear. A tall, noble, and elegant figure appeared on the screen. Han, are you still angry with me? Ever since Su Yinqian rejected Bailey Han's proposal and went to England, Bailey Han had a cold attitude every time she contacted Bailey Han. Today was no exception. Bailey Han sat down on the sofa. His lips were pursed, and he didn't say a word. Han, it's not easy for me to find time to see you. Don't be so angry, okay? Su Yunqian's voice became gentler. Even if she was asking for forgiveness, she still maintained a perfect smile on her face. She had been coaxing him so gently for the past few days. Bailey Han's anger had subsided a lot, but he was still a little awkward emotionally. His face gradually softened, and there was an imperceptible gentleness in his voice. Have you had lunch? Don't just focus on work and starve yourself. Su Yinqian knew that since he took the initiative to care about her, it meant that he had forgiven her. The smile on her lips became more obvious. I've already eaten. I eat well every day. You don't have to worry about me. But you, when I'm not by your side, don't just focus on work. You have to rest early and eat well. Bailey Han curled the corners of his lips slightly, and there was a gentle smile in his eyes. I know. Don't force yourself when you're abroad. Remember to look for me if you have any difficulties. Okay. Su Yinqian nodded elegantly. The two of them were chatting happily when there was a knock on the door. Bailey Han said, "Wait a moment." Then he got up to open the door. Xia Dong stood quietly at the door with a cup of hot coffee. Bailey Han's face darkened. "What are you doing here?" "I want to talk to you." On the other side of the screen, Su Yinqian couldn't see what was happening at the door because of her angle of view, but she heard a woman's voice and asked in confusion, "Han, who is it?" Bailey Han raised his voice and answered, "She's our new maid." He turned his head and lowered his voice to Xia Dong. "It's not convenient today. You can go back first." Xia Dong also lowered her voice. "Here's the coffee." Then she stuffed the coffee into his hand. Looking at her back view, Bailey Han's brows furrowed imperceptibly. "Han, it's so late. What is the maid doing here?" It was noon in England, but it was already past 9 o'clock in the evening in Bailey Han's home. "Delivering coffee." Bailey Han raised the coffee in his hand and hesitated for a moment. He didn't know how to tell Yun Qian about Xia Dong's pregnancy, and he didn't know if she would accept the fact. After deliberating for a moment, he said, "Yun Qian, there's something I want to." Su Yinqian had already been called by someone. She smiled apologetically. "I'm going to work. If there's anything, we can talk next time. You must dream of me tonight." "Okay." Bailey Han watched her figure disappear in front of the screen, and then the screen slowly turned blue and then black. The smile on his lips disappeared, and was replaced by a helpless expression. "Oh, what's the matter?" Xia Dong wiped her wet hair with a towel on her head and looked at Bailey Han standing at the door. Bailey Han pursed his thin lips. "Why were you looking for me just now?" Xia Dong didn't expect him to look for her at all. Continuing the previous topic, she was a little conflicted. Let him in. She was wearing a bathrobe and her hair was wet. It was obviously not appropriate. If she didn't let him in, it would be difficult to find a chance to talk to him. Bailey Han waited for a while, but didn't get an answer. He frowned impatiently. What's the matter? Was this woman playing a trick on him? Was it fun to see him come all the way here? He shouldn't have cared about her. What a bad temper. He hoped that the child wouldn't inherit his bad temper in the future. Xia Dong scratched her head helplessly. Come in. Have a seat first. I'll change. Add, Songshu 566. Chapter 23. Bailey Han sat on the sofa, waiting impatiently. Xia Dong changed and walked out of the changing room. She was wearing a wine-red silk nightgown with a sapphire blue shawl. The nightgown reached her knees, revealing her slender calves and delicate ankles. Her damp hair draped over her shoulders naturally. She looked a little uneasy, but there was a kind of awkwardness that made her look charming. I'm sorry, this is the only thing I found in the changing room. Xia Dong carefully sat on the sofa and wrapped the shawl around herself. It was quite rude to appear in front of him in a revealing nightgown in the middle of the night. Bailey Han pursed his lips and said calmly, Why were you looking for me just now? Xia Dong touched the tip of her nose. Actually, I wanted to apologize to you. Bailey Han looked at her suspiciously. Apologize? What tricks are you trying to play now? I really want to apologize to you. I know I'm very selfish. If I give birth to the child, it will definitely cause trouble for you and Miss Yinqian. So I'm sorry. It was not easy for her to find her conscience and apologize to him, but she was still misunderstood by him. Bailey Han curled his lips mockingly. Things have already developed to this point. Do you think an apology is useful? I know an apology is useless, but we can work together to solve this problem. Xia Dong became more and more excited as she spoke. You don't want this child, but I really want to keep this child. So as long as we work together, we can each get what we want. Bailey Han glanced at her calmly. Tell me what you think. I think you also know the agreement I made with your grandmother. If I give birth to a son, I have to leave him to Bailey's family. If I give birth to a daughter, I can take her away. So, as long as I give birth to a daughter, everything will be fine, right? Because of excitement and anticipation, her eyes were shining. Bailey Han's slender fingers tapped on the chair. You want to steal a dragon and turn a phoenix. That's right. With your ability, you can definitely do it. No matter if I give birth to a boy or a girl, as long as I tell Bailey's family that I gave birth to a daughter, I can take the child and leave. It was easy to talk to smart people. Xiaodong smiled and flattered him. Bailey Han curled his lips mockingly. Do you think Bailey's family are all fools? That's why I need your help. I definitely can't do it alone. During the time when she lived in Bailey Han's villa, Xia had gathered a lot of information. She knew that the Bailey's family was powerful and was not someone she could compete with. So she chose to cooperate with Bailey Han. Of them, I won't cooperate with you. I advise you not to play any tricks under my grandmother's nose. Bailey Han leaned forward and placed both hands on the back of the chair. He looked down at Xiaodong in a threatening and condescending manner, trapping Xiaodong between himself and the sofa. He said coldly, I agree to keep this child, which means that I won't do anything to this child. However, I can't guarantee that there won't be any accidents. If there was an accident and the child was miscarried, then it would not be his responsibility. Xiaodong understood what he was hinting at. She could see the viciousness in his eyes. She gritted her teeth and glared at him. Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Are you worse than an animal? Bailey Han's lips curved into a sinister smile. He pinched her chin and said slowly, I've never treated him as my child. You don't deserve to give birth to my child. Xiaodong kicked him angrily. Get lost, you devil. You'll regret it one day. You'd better behave yourself. Otherwise, I don't mind causing an accident to happen to you right now. Bailey Han used one hand to suppress her waving hands. Then, he straddled her body with both his legs, suppressing her legs that were kicking wildly. What are you trying to do? Let go of me. Help! Help! Woo! Woo! Xiaodong had just called out for help when he covered her mouth. His entire weight was on top of her. Only then did she remember that he had strangled her in the office. That deadly pressure, mixed with the fear of the unknown, surged into her heart. Her eyes widened, filled with terror. After Bailey Han subdued her, he realized how intimate their position was. Her soft lips were under his palm, and her beautiful eyes were filled with tears of fear. Because of their struggle just now, the shawl on her upper body had slipped to the ground. Only then did he realize that she was wearing a nightgown with spaghetti straps. Her slender neck and exquisite collarbone were all exposed in front of him at this moment. He didn't know why, but the scene of her moaning under him that night appeared in his mind. Her soft and supple skin, her sweet and fragrant taste, and even the ecstasy of having her slender legs clamped around his waist, all of it awakened. He wasn't an indulgent person. Even though he had been with her for a while, he didn't have any other thoughts. But now, holding her soft body in his arms, a certain part of his body was clamoring with desire. Xiaodong didn't know why Bailey Han's body suddenly heated up. His gaze was deep and terrifying. She shook her head but still couldn't make a sound. Just when she thought he would hurt her and the child, he suddenly got up. His face was ashen as he left without a word. Xiaodong collapsed on the chair, gasping for breath. Her body was still trembling slightly. Although she didn't know why Bailey Han suddenly left, she believed that he would do what he said. She had to be extremely careful in the future to protect the child. On the other side, Xiaodong was silently cursing Bailey Han in her heart. She didn't know that the man who drew the character had taken a cold shower for half an hour after returning to his room. After the cold shower, Bailey Han was still in a bad mood. He actually had a reaction to that damned woman. He was crazy. In the blink of an eye, Xiaodong had already been home for half a month. During this time, Uncle Wang was the one who picked her up from work. Occasionally, old Madam would call to ask about her health. Every weekend, Bailey Yin would ask her out to play, but she always rejected him. On the other hand, Bailey Han seemed to have disappeared from the face of the earth. He never contacted her again. This was quite good. Otherwise, the two of them would hate each other. Xiaodong was very satisfied with the current state of her life. On Friday, Xiaodong finished her work early. After work, she went straight to the place where Uncle Wang parked his car. She had an appointment with Yi Siki to go to the hot spring together. When she arrived at the parking lot, Uncle Wang still hadn't arrived. Xia Dong waited for more than 10 minutes before finally calling Uncle Wang. Uncle Wang, I'm already at the parking lot. Are you delayed by something? If it's not convenient, I'll go home by myself. Uncle Wang said, Hey Miss Xia, don't you know? Today, young master said that he's going to pick you up. Oh, I see. Then I'll wait a little longer. Xia Dong wanted to scratch the wall. She didn't want to see Bailey Han at all. She didn't want to see him at all. Xia Dong sat on the bench dejectedly. She waited for 10 minutes, then another 20 minutes. That fussy Bailey Han still hadn't arrived. She searched for his number on her phone. After hesitating for a long time, she still didn't call him. What if he was busy? If she disturbed his work, he would definitely want to kill her. She was playing a game on her phone out of boredom, and unknowingly became engrossed in it. She didn't even notice that a silver Bentley had stopped beside her, nor did she notice that a tall figure had walked up to her. It wasn't until a large hand snatched her phone away that she raised her head in panic. Suddenly, she was met with a pair of gloomy and cold eyes. You're here? Bailey Han glanced at the game she was playing and said lightly, Boring. How is it boring? This kitten is very interesting. If you don't believe me, I can play it for you to see. Xia Dong snatched the phone from his hand and moved closer to him to play it for him to see. Look at this kitten. When I touch it like this, it will act coquettishly and meow. Seeing that she was playing so seriously, Bailey Han, who was sitting in the driver's seat, twitched the corner of his mouth and reminded her lightly, Fasten your seatbelt. I'm going to drive. Oh, okay. Xia Dong said as she fastened her seatbelt. This game is about healing. People like you who have a bad temper and are under a lot of pressure can play it. It will have a stress-relieving effect. People with a bad temper? Bailey Han's eyebrows twitched. Since you know this game so well, why don't you talk about its shortcomings? Xia Dong frowned. If you want to talk about its shortcomings, there are some. For example, this game is still a bit monotonous. If the kitten grows up, it can fall in love with other kittens and have babies. It will definitely be much more interesting. Bailey Han's lips curved into an imperceptible smile. Next month, the upgraded version of this game will be released. You can find the things you mentioned in the upgraded version. Really? That's great. Xia Dong suddenly reacted. You know so much about this game. Don't tell me it was developed by Shenghao Group? Shenghao Group was the largest software company in a city. It could be said that the most popular games now were developed by Shenghao Group. However, Xia Dong didn't expect that this new and fresh game that had just been released not long ago was also developed by Shenghao Group. Bailey Han glanced at her very calmly. Yes. Xia Dong deeply felt like she was showing off her slight skill in front of an expert. So she shut her mouth and played the game silently. Get out of the car. Xia Dong looked up at the bustling street outside. What are we doing here? Bailey Han glanced at her disdainfully. Do you want to attend Grandma's birthday party dressed like this? Today is old Madam's birthday party. Can I not attend? Hey, don't drag me. I can walk by myself. Bailey Han was too lazy to talk to her. He directly dragged her out of the car and into the luxurious shopping mall. There were a lot of internationally famous brands here. The prices were easily tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. Even as a fashion editor, Xia Dong had only seen the samples and had never bought them. She quickly stopped and refused to go inside. Let's go somewhere else. It's too expensive here. I can't afford it. Bailey Han ignored her. He left her alone and walked straight to the elevator. Xia Dong did not know whether to leave or stay. Bailey Han frowned impatiently. When you're done hesitating, come find me on the 12th floor. The elevator door closed, leaving Xia Dong standing alone in the corridor in silence. Bailey Han, you win. Xia Dong fiercely crossed out his profile picture in her heart. Then she angrily took the elevator to the 12th floor. Looking at the dazzling array of beautiful clothes, she cried silently in her heart. She did not have a lot of savings, but she had to do a weight loss exercise again. Miss, are you with Mr. Bailey? This way, please. The staff led Xia Dong into the magnificently decorated studio. Bailey Han was chatting with a handsome man. Xia Dong saw the man's face clearly and was instantly excited. It was the internationally famous stylist, Anson. It was rumored that he only styled for celebrities. The magazine had wanted to interview him several times, but his assistant had refused. She did not expect to see him today. Awesome novel Songshu 566. Chapter 24. She excitedly stretched out her hand. Hello, Master Anson. It's nice to meet you. My name is Xia Dong, the editor of Shangmei magazine. Anson was not only handsome, but also humorous. He politely shook her hand and teased, I don't deserve to be called a master. Miss Xia, you can just call me Anson. Please sit here. I will definitely make you the most dazzling star tonight. Driven by her occupational habit, Xia Dong forgot about the high cost and whether she could afford it. She happily sat in the seat that Anson had designated and happily chatted with him. Bailey Han looked at a certain someone who was beaming with joy and couldn't help but frown. He felt a little irritable. An hour later, Xia Dong was invited out of the dressing room by Anson's assistant. At this time, Bailey Han had also changed his clothes. He was wearing a white suit and had a tall figure and charming facial features. His deep black eyes were fixed on Xia Dong. At this time, he was like a prince charming in a fairy tale. Xia Dong smiled and slowly walked towards him. Bailey Han's eyes moved. She was wearing an evening gown made of white silk, which outlined her graceful figure very well. Her exquisite collarbones and shoulders were exposed, and her hair was tied up, which made her neck look even more slender and enchanting. She was slim and graceful, elegant and noble. On her smiling face, her clear eyes shone brighter than the precious necklace on her neck. Bailey Han naturally stretched out his right arm and slightly bent it, leaning towards Xia Dong. Xia Dong pursed her lips and hugged his right arm. The two's figures were reflected in the mirror, and they looked very compatible. After getting into the car, Xia Dong thought of a very serious problem and painfully asked, How much did you spend today? I'll pay you back tomorrow. Bailey Han lightly spat out 2 words. Free. Ha. Xia Dong couldn't believe it. Anson is my friend. It was considered an explanation. I don't think that's a good idea. Bailey Han's eyes roamed over Xia Dong's body, and the corners of his mouth curved into a meaningful smile. Just as Xia Dong's hair stood on end, she heard Bailey Han calculate the bill. The evening gown, shoes and bag cost a total of 186,000 yuan. Miss Xia, would you like to pay in installments or in a lump sum? Although she knew that the Gucci evening gowns and LV bags were very expensive, Xia Dong was still shocked when she heard the price. Bailey Han sneered. His laughter was as sharp as a knife in Xia Dong's ears. He was mocking her, right? He was definitely mocking her. A warrior would rather be killed than humiliated. She angrily took out a bank card from her bag and slapped it in front of him. There's 140,000 yuan in here. I'll pay you back the remaining 46,000 yuan in installments. Bailey Han seemed a little surprised and looked at the card for a long time without saying a word. Xia Dong angrily turned around and looked at the night sky outside the window. Her heart was bleeding. Her savings of 2 years were gone just like that. When they got out of the car, Xia Dong's footsteps were unusually heavy, while Bailey Han was in a good mood and walked as if he was flying. Bailey's old mansion was a manor-style castle. The magnificent building stood in the night sky, and the garden was brightly lit. The valet led the guests into the banquet hall. Xia Dong held Bailey Han's arm and walked elegantly into the banquet hall. Today's banquet was specially held for the old madam's birthday. All the members of Bailey's family, as well as Bailey's friends in the business and political circles, were present. Everyone who attended the birthday banquet was a well-known figure. Xia Dong didn't understand why she was invited. Wasn't Bailey's family afraid that her relationship with Bailey Han would be exposed? Bailey Xiong and Bai Jinxiu were equally confused. When they saw Xia Dong, their faces darkened. Old Master and Old Madam were full of smiles, especially Old Madam. She looked as if she had seen her own granddaughter. She held Xia Dong's hand and said cheerfully, Little Xia, you're here. Come and get to know the family. A family? When did she and Bailey's family become family? Xia Dong couldn't help but cough. She lowered her voice and whispered in Old Madam's ear. Old Madam, it's not very good for you to make such a big fuss. She shouldn't be attending this family gathering. Old Madam smiled and patted the back of her hand. It's okay, don't worry. You'll know in a while. Oh, you must be little Xia. You're so beautiful. I don't think you're any worse than Yun Qian. A well-dressed and charming woman walked over with a smile on her face, swaying her enchanting waist. When Bai Jinxiu saw her, a layer of ice immediately formed on her delicate and beautiful face, and her noble phoenix eyes revealed a trace of coldness. Bailey Han's deep eyes suddenly narrowed, and there was a faint trace of anger on the edge of his thin lips. The smile on old Madam's face froze, and she said indifferently, Lu Xiaoxiao, what are you doing here? Lu Xiaoxiao glanced coquettishly at Bailey Xiong, who was standing beside Bai Jinxiu, and pouted her sexy red lips aggrievedly. I know that today is old Madam's 70th birthday, so I specially came to congratulate you. Old Madam, do you not welcome me? If that's the case, then I'd better leave. She said these words to old Madam, but her eyes looked at Bailey Xiong from time to time. Her watery eyes were full of tenderness and sweetness, which made Bailey Xiong's bones melt. He hurriedly comforted old Madam. Mom, there are so many guests today. Let's not make a fool of ourselves. Old Madam's expression changed a few times, but she finally restrained herself and said indifferently, Since you're here, then stay. Lu Xiaoxiao smiled brighter than spring flowers, and her slender waist bent. Thank you, old Madam. Although she was no longer young, she was still charming. Her swaying waist and swaying hips attracted the souls of many men around her, including Bailey Xiong. Bailey Xiong and Lu Xiaoxiao frequently exchanged glances. Even Xia Dong could tell that their relationship was not normal, let alone the other members of the Bailey family. Their expressions were not very good. Old Madam stopped looking at Lu Xiaoxiao and grabbed Xia Dong's wrist. Xiaoxia, come with Grandma. Grandma has something to say. Xia Dong looked at Bailey Han with an inquiring gaze, but Bailey Han did not look at her at all. He politely greeted the people who came forward to greet him. All right, then she would decide for herself. She naturally held old Madam's arm and followed her to the second floor. Along the way, Xia Dong realized that she did not see Bailey Yun's figure. It was too strange. At the staircase on the second floor, Xia Dong's arm was held by old Madam as they stood between her and old Master. Old Master cleared his throat and said in a loud voice, Dear guests, thank you all for coming to my wife's 70th birthday celebration. Today we as husband and wife would like to announce something in front of all our friends. Old Madam tacitly continued. This person beside me is called Xia Dong. She is our new godgranddaughter. Xiao Xia, this jade bracelet is my gift to you for our first meeting. Old Madam took off a jade bracelet from her wrist and put it on Xia Dong's wrist. She continued, Come Xiao Xia. Say hello to all the elders. Xia Dong's mind instantly went blank. This was too dramatic. It was only when old Madam secretly pinched her arm that she came back to her senses. She forced a smile. My name is Xia Dong. I will have to trouble all the elders to take care of me in the future. Congratulations, old master. Congratulations, old madam. Congratulatory voices rang out. Xia Dong's mood was very complicated. She glanced in the direction where Bailey Han was standing. He just happened to be looking in her direction. There was no expression on his handsome face. She couldn't tell if he was happy or angry. Bailey Xiong and Lu Xiaoxiao were very close to each other. She didn't know what they were talking about, but both of them were laughing very happily. Bai Jinxiu had left long ago. She didn't know where she went. Xia Dong was dragged by old master and old madam to meet Bailey's relatives. She addressed them all as uncle, aunt, and grandfather and grandmother. The only person she remembered was a girl called Bailey Fian. Bailey Fian was the granddaughter of old master's cousin. She was Bailey Han's cousin. At first glance, this girl was a typical daughter of a wealthy family. She looked down on people who came from a lower background than her. Xia Dong politely greeted her. She snorted arrogantly and raised her chin, looking like she didn't want to talk to her. In front of old master and old madam, she embarrassed Xia Dong. I heard that your parents are no longer around. You are living in your aunt's house. You can be considered to have flown up the branch and become a phoenix. Fian, don't be rude. The noblewoman beside Bailey Fian, who was Bailey Fian's mother, Morong Lan, smiled appropriately. Little Xia, Fian is young and doesn't know any better. Don't lower yourself to her level. Xia Dong smiled and said, children's words carry no harm. I won't take it to heart. The surrounding people had different expressions. Old Madam nodded secretly. Xia Dong, this girl, was not only smart, but also a person who didn't admit defeat. Very good. Morong Lan of course could tell that Xia Dong was mocking her daughter's childishness. Her smile was a little twisted, but she still laughed dryly. That's good, that's good. Bailey Fian, on the other hand, didn't understand Xia Dong's meaning at all. She snorted disdainfully. It's this miss who doesn't want to argue with you. Morong Lan wanted to cover her daughter's mouth. Fian, so you're here. A surprised voice sounded from behind Xia Dong. The person who came was wearing a pink princess dress. She had cute little curly hair and a pair of big eyes. She was so innocent and beautiful that she looked like a princess who had walked out of a fairy tale. She looked somewhat familiar. When the princess saw Old Master and his wife, she smiled sweetly and said, Hello Grandpa Bailey. Hello Grandma Bailey. Xingchen wishes Grandma good fortune and longevity. The old madam was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth. Good. Xingchen, where are your parents? Su Xingchen winked mischievously. Daddy and Mommy are chatting with the uncles. It's so boring, so I came to find Fian to play. Good. You young ladies should play together. Go on. The old madam laughed and waved her hand. Su Xingchen nodded obediently and looked at Xia Dong. Xiao Xia Jiejie, do you want to come with us? No need. You guys have fun. Xia Dong politely refused. When Su Xingchen turned and left, she finally remembered why Su Xingchen looked so familiar. It was because she had seen her before at Bailey Han's company. Su Xingchen was the girl who was wearing a doll's dress and talking on the phone in the toilet. She even called Bailey Han Bailey Gidge. It was also on that day that Xia Dong found out that Bailey Han didn't like to be disturbed. Because of Su Xingchen's appearance, he angrily fired the secretary who let Su Xingchen into the company. Xia Dong thoughtfully blinked. There was gossip. It was obvious that the little princess called Su Xingchen liked Bailey Han. Finally, after entertaining the guests, the old master and old madam were stopped by a few elders of the same generation to chat. Xia Dong was sent away by the old madam to rest for a while. Xia Dong knew that the old madam was worried about the child in her belly, so she didn't refuse and went out to the garden to get some fresh air. The garden of Bailey's house was very big. Xia Dong found a more secluded place to sit and rubbed her sore calves. A faint sound came from the bushes not far away. Attention! Hongcha 866. Chapter 25. Xia Dong cursed inwardly. Such an ambiguous sound. Could it be that she had bumped into someone else? Second young master, you're so naughty. Accompanied by the ambiguous moans, there was also a woman's soft voice. Naughty. Little vixen, I'll let you see how naughty I can be. Xia Dong was very familiar with the sound. Xia Dong took a deep breath, then slowly exhaled. She was afraid that the two of them would find out, so she didn't dare to make any movements and still maintain the posture of bending over and rubbing her legs. The sound of hurried footsteps came from afar, and then Lu Xiaoxiao's suppressed exclamation was heard. Yin, what are you doing? Bailey Yun's voice was calm. Don't you see clearly what I'm doing? When will you become a little more capable? You just came back from abroad and you're already so restless. Do you want to be thrown to America by your father for a few years? Look at Bailey Han. So you like Bailey Han so much? If that's the case, then go and be his mother. It's a pity that he didn't come from your stomach. Yun, what's with your attitude? I'm your mother. Forget it, I don't want to argue with you now. Hurry up and go back to the living room. Your father was just asking about you. There was another sound of footsteps, but this time the footsteps were more chaotic. It should be the sound of several people. Xia Dong heard the footsteps getting farther and farther away until they disappeared. Then she straightened her body. Damn, what did she find out? It turned out that Bailey Yin was the son of Bailey Xiong and Lu Xiaoxiao. No wonder Bailey Yun called Bai Jinxiu auntie, and Bai Jinxiu didn't like him very much. Rich families were really messy. Walking to the fork in the road, Xiaodong saw Bailey Yun leaning lazily against a tree with his arms crossed. She grinned guiltily and waved her hand. Hey, the moon is very beautiful tonight. Ha ha ha. The dim light poured on his body, but she could clearly see that there was no expression on his face. You heard it. Eavesdropping was a disgraceful act, although she didn't do it on purpose. She rubbed her nose awkwardly. No, I didn't hear anything. Bailey Yun walked in front of her and placed one hand on the tree behind her. He looked down at her with a dark gaze. Have I ever told you that you can't lie? Every time you lie, your eyes will flicker? Xiaodong was extremely depressed. Okay, I admit that I heard it, but I didn't do it on purpose. She raised her hand and promised seriously. Don't worry, I will never tell anyone about you having sex in the wild. Sex in the open? Bailey Yun's mouth twitched. After a while, Bailey Yun said, If I said that I didn't do anything just now, would you believe me? Xiaodong looked at him as if he was an idiot. Do you think I'm an ignorant girl? Alright, actually we only kissed. Moreover, she was the one who kissed me first. Bailey Yun rubbed his eyebrows. She's the daughter of the Yi group. The Yi group and the Bailey group have business dealings. What was this? Sacrificing beauty for the family business? Xiaodong patted his shoulder understandingly. I understand. You don't have to explain so much to me really. I understand. Bailey Yun choked. This was the first time he had explained something like this. He didn't expect her to have such an attitude. He instantly became angry. Hey, are you a woman or not? Don't you mind at all? Xiaodong was speechless. Why should I mind? You're my friend, not my husband. Why should I mind you being intimate with other people? Bailey Yun glared at her as if he expected better from her. Xiaodong asked nosily. If no one interrupted you, would you have done that? Bailey Yun knocked on her forehead heavily and said angrily. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Even if no one interrupted us, nothing would have happened between us. Alright, let's go back to the hall. You've been tired all night. Eat something. Bailey Yun thoughtfully took a plate and picked some food for Xiaodong. Thank you. Xiaodong speared a piece of tuna sushi with a fork and put it into her mouth. The strong fishy taste made her feel nauseous and her stomach churned. She put the plate on the table, covered her mouth and ran into the bathroom, ignoring the surprised looks of the people around her. She leaned over the toilet and retched uncomfortably. Bam bam. Someone knocked on the door and Bailey Yun's concerned voice came from outside the bathroom. Xia, are you okay? I'm fine. Xiaodong walked out with a pale face and furrowed brows. It was obvious that she was still very uncomfortable. Bailey Yun said worriedly, You don't look well. I'll ask Suja to come over and take a look. No need. Xiaodong touched her belly helplessly. I think it's a pregnancy reaction. Although Bailey Yun had already guessed the reason, he still felt indescribably depressed when he heard her say it herself. His face was gloomy. I'll take you upstairs to rest for a while. No need. I'm fine now. What do you mean you're fine? Do you know how ugly you look now? Bailey Yun suddenly roared angrily. He didn't give her a chance to refuse and bent down to carry her. Xiaodong was shocked. Bailey Yun, what are you doing? Put me down. The guests in the front hall hadn't left yet. What if they were seen like this? Shut up. Bailey Yun held her tightly in his arms. His lips were pursed and his face was cold. He looked very different from his usual smiling self. Instead, he looked like the iceberg Bailey Han. They were indeed brothers. The noise in the front hall was getting closer and closer. Xiaodong could only lower her voice and beg him. Bailey Yun, I beg you. Put me down, okay? I don't want to cause trouble. She had suddenly become the god-granddaughter of Old Bailey, which had attracted a lot of jealous gazes. If second young Master Bailey carried her out now, she wouldn't be able to live a good life anymore. If Big Brother carried you like this, would you refuse? Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows and a dangerous look appeared in his beautiful phoenix eyes. Xiaodong could almost see the guests in the front hall. She was so anxious that her eyes turned red. No matter who it is, I will refuse. Now is not the time to be conflicted. If you don't put me down, we can't be friends anymore. Bailey Yin looked at her deeply and suddenly smiled. His cold expression changed into a lazy and flirtatious one. Oh, I was just joking and you're so anxious? You're such a serious girl. He let go of her and put her down steadily. He bent over to her ear and smiled ambiguously. Xia Xia, I realize that I'm starting to like you a little. Slap. A loud slap shocked Bailey Yin and Xia Dong. Xia Dong stared at her right hand in a daze. She had only wanted to vent her anger and didn't expect to really hit him. Bailey Yin's long and narrow eyes were full of hurt. He turned to leave, but Xia Dong quickly grabbed his arm. I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Bailey Yin didn't say anything and didn't turn around. So Xia Dong didn't see the cold look in his eyes and didn't notice the couple walking towards them. It seems that I've disturbed you. It wasn't until Bailey Han's cold voice that Xia Dong realized that their current appearance could easily cause a misunderstanding. She quickly let go of Bailey Yun's arm. Bailey Han and Su Xingchen stood side by side in front of her. Bailey Han was expressionless while Su Xingchen's delicate face was filled with worry. Sister Xia, Grandma saw you suddenly run out of the banquet hall just now, so she asked us to come over and take a look. Are you okay? Xia Dong smiled. I'm fine now, thank you. Su Xingchen blinked her large eyes and asked curiously. Second young master. What's wrong with your left face? It looks red. Bailey Yin raised his eyebrows and smiled ambiguously. I was bitten by a bold mosquito just now. That mosquito was really big. Don't you think so, Xia Xia? What a vengeful man. After the banquet ended, Xia Dong took off the jade bracelet on her wrist and wanted to return it to the old madam. Old madam, I can't accept such a valuable gift. The old madam smiled kindly and personally put the bracelet back on her wrist. I've already said that this is for you. Do you want me to go back on my words? If you don't like it, you can give it to my great-grandson Xiao Jin. Xia Dong had no choice but to accept it and asked the question that had been lingering in her mind for a long time. Old madam, why do you want to acknowledge me as your god-granddaughter? I've thought about this matter carefully. Acknowledging you as my god-granddaughter will allow you to be exposed in front of everyone earlier. After your belly is revealed, it will be logical for you to move into our house, and it won't attract attention. The old madam didn't reveal her deep thoughts. After a period of observation, she felt that Xia Dong was a smart girl and had a good character. She didn't have any thoughts of climbing up the social ladder because of her pregnancy. She wanted to take this opportunity to let Bailey Han and Xia Dong cultivate their relationship. Although it would be unfair to Su Yinxian, who asked her to abandon her grandson first. The old madam had always been dissatisfied with Su Yinxian because she valued her career more than Bailey Han. Bailey's family didn't need a strong career woman, but a good wife who could support her husband and raise her children. If Xia Dong knew her thoughts, she wouldn't agree even if she was beaten to death. Unfortunately, she never thought in that direction. I understand. Although Xia Dong didn't want to have anything to do with Bailey's family anymore, it had already happened. She had no chance to refuse. It's getting late. Old madam, I'll take my leave first. Still calling me old madam? Although the old madam's tone was dissatisfied, the smile on her face didn't fade. Xia Dong braced herself and called, Grandma. That's right. The old madam smiled and patted the back of her hand. When they returned home, it was drizzling. The old madam asked the servants to hold an umbrella and send Bailey Han and Xia Dong out. Xia Dong was wearing high heels and a long evening dress. It was very inconvenient for her to go down the steps. She had to hold the hem of her dress with both hands. The steps were wet and slippery because of the rain. She walked cautiously and on tenterhooks. On her left was the servant, Aunt Fu, who was holding an umbrella, and on her right was Bailey Han, who walked steadily. Bailey Han looked straight ahead, and didn't seem to notice her awkward situation at all. When she was 5 or 6 steps away from the flat ground, Xia Dong slowly relaxed. Just when she felt that she was about to be safe, she suddenly heard a scream from behind. Xia Dong was shocked. She stepped on air and staggered forward. She reflexively reached out to the right and grabbed Bailey Han's arm in panic. However, Bailey Han didn't help her. Instead, He pushed her arm away mercilessly. With a plop, Xiaodong fell heavily on the steps. If it weren't for Mrs. Fu, who quickly threw away the umbrella and pulled her from behind, she would have rolled down the steps. Welfare Xingwu 799. Chapter 26. Without the cover of the umbrella, Xiaodong, who was sitting on the steps, was drenched all over. Her face was as pale as a sheet of white paper. She covered her abdomen with both hands and trembled in pain. She felt a warm current gushing out from her lower body. She panicked and grabbed Aunt Fu's arm. My child, save my child. Aunt Fu cried anxiously. Quick, call the old madam. The sound of footsteps was heard, and soon a group of people came. The first one to approach Xiaodong was Su Xingchen. She helped Aunt Fu to lift Xiaodong up from the ground. When she saw the red blood at her feet, she immediately burst into tears. Sister Xiaoxia, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. If I hadn't screamed just now, you wouldn't have been frightened and fallen. It's all my fault. Xiaoxia, don't be afraid. It's all right. Bailey Yun, who came after hearing the news, pushed Su Xingchen away, bent down to pick up Xiaodong, and walked quickly to the main house. Xiaodong was trembling in pain. Her lower body was still bleeding. The blood flowed down her thighs and dyed her skirt red. She was so scared. She was afraid that the child who had accompanied her for more than a month would leave her. She clung to Bailey Yun's arm, as if she was grabbing the last life-saving straw. Her voice was hoarse because of the pain. Save the child. You must save my child. It's all right. It's all right. Don't be afraid. Bailey Yun saw that her skirt was dyed red with blood. It was a shocking sight. Panic that he had never felt before rushed into his heart, and he held her tighter in his arms. The doctor will be here soon. Hold on. The panicked crowd came and went. A group of people ran around the main house in a panic. In front of the steps, under the bright light, only Su Xingchen and Bailey Han were left. Under the steps, several umbrellas were lying in the rain. The embarrassed appearance made people speculate the scene of the panic just now. Bailey Han was like a statue. He stood motionless on the steps. The servant holding the umbrella for him didn't dare to move either. He just stood there stiffly holding the umbrella for him. Bailey Han's indifferent gaze fell on the steps to the left. There was a pool of blood there. Even in the night he could see it clearly. The bloodstains blended into the rainwater and became fainter and fainter, but there was still a faint smell of blood in the damp air. Brother Bailey, will Sister Xiaoxia be all right? Su Xingchen approached Bailey Han with tears in his eyes. I really didn't do it on purpose. I didn't know she was pregnant. Let's go. Bailey Han completely ignored Su Xingchen and walked down the steps. The servant hurriedly followed. As Su Xingchen watched Bailey Han leave, the tears in the corners of his eyes gradually disappeared. He instructed the servant holding the umbrella beside him. Let's go as well. I want to see Xiaoxiajia. In the car, Bailey Han sat silently in the back seat. The rain washed the window and the scene outside couldn't be seen clearly. The driver was his assistant Lu Zihao, who had attended the banquet with him. Lu Zihao hesitated for a moment and said, President, do you want to go back and see Miss Xia? Drive. A cold voice said. But, Bailey Han coldly cut him off. My matters are not for you to meddle in. If you want to change jobs, I'll help you. I'm sorry, President. Lu Zihao was so nervous that sweat came out. He quickly started the car. After a few hours of emergency treatment, Xiaodong's child was finally saved. However, because her situation was too dangerous, she needed to rest for a period of time. Hearing that the child was saved, the old madam, who had been silently chanting the prayer beads in her hand, finally breathed a sigh of relief. Su Xingchen, who had been accompanying her, was so happy that he shed tears. Grandma, that's great. Xiaoxiajiajia's child is saved. Bailey Yun glanced at Su Xingchen and silently went upstairs to his room. Only he knew that until now, his hands were trembling. That bright red, as soon as he closed his eyes, all of it would rush into his mind. The old madam slowly exhaled. Her sharp gaze swept around and finally fell on the servant holding the umbrella for Xiaodong, Aunt Fu. Aunt Fu, tell me, what happened at that time? Why did Miss fall? The situation just now was too urgent, so she wasn't in the mood to interrogate Xia Dong. Now that she had time, she must investigate this matter. Aunt Fu had been a servant in the Bailey family for 20 years. She was steady in her work and had always been valued by the old madam. She said calmly, "Madam, I want to talk to you alone." Although Su Xingchen had a good relationship with the Bailey family, he was still an outsider. If what happened today was publicized, she was afraid that it would have a bad impact on the Bailey family. The old madam understood Aunt Fu's concerns. "Come upstairs with me." In the study upstairs, Aunt Fu told the old madam and grandfather what happened at that time. After listening, the old madam frowned. "You said that it was Han who pushed Xia Dong away?" Aunt Fu nodded. "I was wondering why he agreed to my request so easily and agreed to keep the child. It turns out that he was waiting for me here. If the child died in an accident, wouldn't it have nothing to do with him?" The old madam sighed. She didn't expect that Bailey Han would do such a vicious thing. The child in Xia Dong's stomach was his child. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. How could he be so cruel? Was he so unwilling to keep the child? "Old man, tell me, did I push him too hard?" The old madam began to doubt her own actions, and her eyes showed a bit of helplessness and exhaustion. Old Master Fu asked Aunt Fu to leave and comforted her. "Didn't the child survive? Don't blame yourself. As for Han, we also need to take things step by step. After all, they are related by blood. Maybe he will accept it one day." The old madam sighed deeply. They were blood relatives. If blood relations were really useful, the relationship between the grandson and the son would not be so stiff. What was wrong with the Bailey clan? They were clearly a family, but everyone acted like they were enemies. Knock knock. Su Xingchen's soft voice sounded. "Grandpa Bailey, Grandma, can I come in?" The old madam adjusted her facial expression. "Oh, it's Xingchen. Come in." Su Xingchen slipped on the steps and almost fell. Her clothes were a little wet. The old madam asked the servant to find Bailey Jing's new clothes for her to change into. She was wearing a pink chiffon skirt and looked obedient and cute. However, her expression was a little uneasy and her eyes were red. "Grandpa, Grandma, I'm here to apologize." The Bailey family and the Su family were family friends. The old madam had always liked the innocent and cute Su Xingchen. This fondness even overshadowed her fondness for Bailey Han's girlfriend, Su Yinqian. Seeing Su Xingchen's expression, the old madam quickly grabbed her hand and asked, "What's wrong? What happened? Quickly tell Grandma." Su Xingchen burst into tears, crying like a child. As he cried, he vaguely said, "Grandma, I've let Xiao Xiajiejie down. For Xiao Xiajiejie to become like this, it's all my fault. I almost tripped and screamed. That's why Sister Xiao Xia also fell down. Grandma, it's all my fault. You can hit me and scold me. This child, I thought it was something serious. You almost fell too. How can I blame you?" The old madam said as she took out a tissue to wipe her tears. Her tone was full of love. "You child, you're not young anymore. Why are you crying like a baby? If your parents see this, they'll think that we bullied you." The old master smiled kindly. "You little girl. Why do you have the same temper as Xiaojing? You're always shedding tears. Stop crying." Su Xingchen pouted and sobbed. "Of course not. Grandpa and Grandma treat me the best. Grandpa, Grandma, can you forgive me? In the future, I won't be careless and scare Sister Xiao Xia." The old master patted her head. Don't cry, don't cry. We've never blamed you. Of course, there's no such thing as forgiveness." Su Xingchen smiled through her tears and said sweetly, "Thank you, Grandpa and Grandma." After everything was arranged, it was already early in the morning. The old madam discussed with the old master, and decided to leave Xia Dong in the old residence to recuperate. They also called Bailey Han over, and had him accompany Xia Dong to stay in the old residence until she recovered. The first thing Xia Dong did when she woke up was to touch her stomach. It was very flat and she couldn't feel anything. She wanted to get up in a panic, but was stopped by a pair of arms. "You just woke up. Where do you think you're going instead of resting?" The child. Xia Dong anxiously grabbed Bailey Yun's hand. She was so nervous that she couldn't even finish her sentence. The child is fine. Gigai, lie down and rest. Bailey Yin gently helped her lie down. He sat by her bed and looked at her deeply. You've been unconscious for a day and a night. You caused me to not sleep for 24 hours. How are you going to make it up to me? I'm sorry. Also, thank you. Xiaodong knew that he was the one who carried her back to the room. He was the one who first asked the servant to call the doctor. He was also the first person she saw when she woke up. She was really grateful for what he had done for her. Bailey Yin ruffled her hair and smirked. Just thanking me isn't enough. Why don't you give me a kiss in return? Xiaodong glared at him. Can't you be serious for a while? I'm giving you a serious suggestion. Bailey Yin flirtatiously raised his eyebrows. I have to thank you. Your suggestion isn't helpful to me at all. After all, Xiaodong had just woken up and hadn't recovered. After saying a few words, her face showed signs of fatigue. Bailey Yin thoughtfully asked the servant to feed her a bowl of porridge. He tucked her in and told her to rest well. Bailey Yin walked out of Xiaodong's room and bumped into the old lady in the corridor. Knowing that she was going to visit Xiaodong, he respectfully greeted her, Grandma. The old lady nodded. Her expression was indifferent as she said, Thanks to you, Xiaoxia managed to keep the child. You did a good job. Thank you for the compliment, Grandma. Bailey Yin stepped aside to let her pass. The old lady didn't leave immediately. Instead, she quietly sized him up for a while and suddenly said, You care about Xiaodong a lot. It wasn't a question, but a confirmation. Bailey Yin smiled. Xiaodong is my friend. It's only right that I care about my friend. The old lady's face darkened. She reminded him, I don't care how crazy you are outside. But Xiaodong is now my godgranddaughter. She's pregnant with Ahan's child. She can't be involved with another man with the surname Bailey. Do you understand what I mean? Bailey Yin lowered his head and said respectfully, I understand, Grandma. That's good. The old lady left in satisfaction. Awesome novel, Xingwu 799. Chapter 27. Bai Lian glanced at her back, and his lips curled into a mocking smile. No matter how well he did, he couldn't compare to Bailey Han because Bailey Han was the eldest grandson of the Bailey family. Since young, he had been warned not to fight for or covet anything that belonged to Bailey Han. Who cared about what he thought? Xiaodong hated Bailey Han. Although she knew rationally that Bailey Han had no obligation to help her in times of danger, she still couldn't accept it emotionally. After all, he was the child's father. Even if he didn't have any feelings for her, he shouldn't hit her when she was down and do such a vicious thing. She had already decided that he was a devil. When Bailey Han appeared in front of her again under Old Madam's escort, she pretended that he didn't exist and only chatted with Old Madam. She didn't even look at him. It's the weekend. Ahan doesn't have to go to the company. The weather is good. Let him take you out for a walk. It's good for your health. Old Madam knew that their relationship was stiff, so she purposely created an opportunity to matchmake them. How can I do that? Eldest young master is a busy man. I won't trouble him. Xiaodong politely refused and still didn't look at Bailey Han. Bailey Han knew that she was still angry about the miscarriage and purposely ignored him, but he didn't think that he had done anything wrong. He had always been the one to ignore others. When had he ever been ignored so thoroughly? Although he didn't want to admit it, he felt a little indignant. He glanced coldly at Xiaodong and said, It just so happens that I don't have the bad habit of wasting time. Grandma, I've seen her. She's alive and well. Can I leave now? Old Madam frowned. Bailey Han, you've grown up and your wings have hardened, haven't you? You don't even listen to Grandma anymore? You have to take Xiaoxia out today. Bailey Han frowned. Grandma, don't be unreasonable. I'm unreasonable? Fine, I am being unreasonable. So what? Ouch! The old madam clutched her chest and groaned in pain. My heart. Old man, this brat doesn't want me to live anymore. Grandma, are you all right? Xiaodong hurriedly rubbed her chest. Calm down, don't get agitated. The old madam grabbed her wrist and furrowed her brows in pain. Xiaoxia, you brat is being disobedient. Do you not want to listen to Grandma anymore? Grandma, Don't be so agitated. Don't think so much. Have a good rest first, okay? Xia Dong was defeated by her earnest gaze. She wanted to say something, but she couldn't get over it in her heart. The old madam sighed. All right then. Since you don't want to go out with Ahan, then let the two of us take you out to relax. We're old, and although we can't take you out for a walk, we can still go to the hot springs. As long as you don't dislike us. She was about to get up when Xia Dong hurriedly hugged her arm. Grandma, there's really no need. I'm fine now. There's no need to trouble yourself. How could she dare to go out with the two elders? What if she bumped into something? Would she be able to bear the responsibility? Bailey Han's eyebrows twitched. A pregnant woman going out with two elders to relax? Only Grandma could think of something like that. Although he knew she was trying to goad him, he had no choice but to jump into the trap. His grandma was a woman of her words. What if something happened to that woman when they went out? We'll leave in an hour. Bailey Han said coldly. He couldn't be bothered to see them argue and left. The old madam's worried expression disappeared. She smiled and patted Xia Dong's hand. She lowered her voice and said, Don't worry, I'll have the bodyguards follow you. Xia Dong rubbed her forehead. This old lady was really troublesome. She really didn't think there was a need to go out with Bailey Han. What if they encountered danger again, and he added insult to injury? If Xia Dong had known that old madam's so-called going out to relax was actually going to Bali to relax, she would never have agreed to it even if she was beaten to death. When she sat in Bailey's private jet, she found out that the destination was Bali. In fact, Bailey Han didn't expect that Grandma would ask him to take Xia Dong to Bali for a vacation. It was just that his psychological endurance was better, and he had already accepted this reality. Looking at Bailey Han, who was dealing with official business with an expressionless face, Xia Dong comforted herself that she would just take it as a free vacation. Although the backpackers were very annoying, there were also two bodyguards, a man and a woman. The man's name was Du Bing, and the woman's name was Leng Shui. They both had the same cold face and looked very boring. After a 10-hour-long flight, they arrived at Bali in the evening. The hotel they stayed at was the most luxurious resort in the area, Sunshine Coast. The Sunshine Coast Resort was controlled by Bailey Group. As soon as they heard that the young master of the Bailey family had arrived, they received him at the private airport half an hour in advance. Xia Dong began to doubt the old madam's intentions. She actually ordered the hotel manager to only open 3 rooms for them. Apart from Du Bing and Leng Shui's rooms, she and Bailey Han were arranged to stay in the same presidential suite. Note, it was 2 people staying in 1 room. Bailey Han negotiated with the hotel manager with a sullen face. The manager bowed in fear and trepidation. I'm sorry, young master. This is the old madam's and old master's orders. I dare not act on my own. Why don't you talk to old master personally? The manager dialed an international number and handed it to Bailey Han with both hands. Xia Dong was standing beside Bailey Han. She vaguely heard a woman's voice coming from the phone. It should be the old madam. She didn't know what she said, but Bailey Han's face became more and more ugly. Ew, Xia Dong suddenly felt uncomfortable. She covered her mouth and retched. Leng Shui, the female bodyguard behind her, quickly took out a paper bag and put it in front of her. She helped her to the bathroom. Xia Dong vomited in the bathroom. She was quite normal on the plane just now. She didn't expect to vomit so badly after getting off the plane. When she walked out of the bathroom, her legs were weak. Bailey Han was waiting in the hall with a sullen face. He looked impatient. Seeing Leng Shui helping Xia Dong come over, he said coldly, "Go upstairs." Xia Dong didn't know whether he had communicated with the old madam. She wanted to ask, but when she saw his sullen face, she gigai shut her mouth. However, she soon knew the answer. Du Bing opened the door with the room card. Bailey Han walked in first. Du Bing said respectfully, "Miss Xia, please come in." Xia Dong looked at Bailey Han, who had already walked into the room, and then at Du Bing, who was waiting for her to enter the room. Finally, she turned to Leng Shui and smiled ingratiatingly. "Leng Shui, can I live with you? I can sleep on the sofa." Leng Shui was a bodyguard specially sent by the old madam to protect her. It was said that she used to be a special forces soldier. Leng Shui, as her name suggested, looked cold. She was a famous cold beauty. Leng Shui didn't even blink. No, the old madam said that you and the young master must live in the same room. It was not that Leng Shui didn't want to help, but the old madam had already said it. Just help me. If you don't say it, I won't say it. Xiaodong looked at Du Bing. Du Bing, you won't say it either, right? The old madam won't know. No, it's my duty to obey orders. I can't disobey orders. As expected of a special forces soldier, she was so impartial. Xiaodong walked slowly and reluctantly into the room she shared with Bailey Han. As soon as she walked into the living room, a towel flew at her face. Bailey Han ordered coldly, "Go in and take a bath. You're not allowed to come out until you're clean." Taking the towel off her head, Xiaodong was angry. "Do you think you're an emperor and everyone has to follow your orders?" Bailey Han's face was gloomy. "I'll give you one more chance. Do you want to take a bath or not?" "No, I don't want to take a bath." Although Xiaodong wanted to take a bath comfortably, she didn't want to be ordered by the annoying Bailey Han. Why should she listen to him? Well, very good. Bailey Han walked over quickly, exuding a cold and harsh aura. Being stared at by his sharp eyes, Xiaodong felt a little weak, but she still raised her chin with an expression of, "What can you do to me?" Suddenly, she felt that she was lifted up and moved towards the bathroom. "Hey, what are you doing? Let go of me. Don't just pick people up, you bastard." Xiaodong shouted in protest and struggled desperately to get rid of him. Suddenly, she was pushed into the bathtub by the neck. Then Bailey Han turned on the shower head, and the cold water poured down from the back of her head. "Oh, you bastard, the water went into my nose." Cough. "Behave yourself, don't challenge my patience," he said impatiently, his hands scratching her head randomly. Then he squeezed the shampoo on her head and rubbed it randomly. "Hey, stop it, it hurts." He had never washed anyone's hair before. His rough movements messed up her long hair and caused her scalp to hurt. "If you move again, I'll throw you out. Do you think I like to bathe stray dogs?" Stray dogs? Although Xiaodong hadn't bathed for a week because of the doctor's advice, she used hot water to wipe her body every day. She shouldn't be as dirty as a stray dog, right? Xiaodong was angry. Just as she was about to speak, the smell of the shampoo entered her nose. She protested uncomfortably. "Oh, wait a minute, the water went into my nose again." Bailey Han finally relaxed his grip on her neck. He lifted her up and stared at her with an unfriendly expression. "Next, do you want to do it yourself, or should I do it?" The next step was to take a bath. Of course, she would do it herself. Xiaodong hugged her chest. "Get out, I'll do it myself." Bailey Han glanced at her disdainfully and said lightly, "Don't worry, I'm not interested in you." That's good. Then I'm safe." Walking out of the bathroom, Bailey Han's lips curved upwards. Even he didn't notice it. Xiaodong exhaled. Looking at her sorry self in the mirror, she realized that she had been tricked. She still obeyed his order and took a shower. What an annoying guy. The annoying Bailey Han didn't give her any clothes and let her go out with only a towel wrapped around her. After Xiaodong finished her shower, she dawdled in the bathroom for more than 10 minutes before calling out awkwardly, "Hey, Bailey Han." Hearing no response, Xiaodong scratched her wet hair in frustration. She knew that she shouldn't have counted on that cold man. "What's the matter?" A cold and calm voice suddenly sounded at the bathroom door. Xiaodong was afraid that he would turn and leave. Ignoring the awkwardness, she quickly said, "Can you help me get my clothes?" There was no response again, and she heard footsteps leaving. Beauty novel Songshu 566. Chapter 28. Xiaodong rolled her eyes. How could she count on that vile man? She was so stupid. She gritted her teeth. So what if it was a bath towel? She wasn't revealing anything. After mentally preparing herself, Xiaodong wrapped the bath towel around herself and walked out of the bathroom cautiously. Like a thief, she crept towards the changing room. After taking a few steps, she saw Bailey Han walking out of the changing room with a bathrobe. Bailey Han looked coldly at Xiaodong. She was wrapped in a bath towel from head to toe. The bath towel covered her chest and thighs, revealing a large area of fair skin. Her wet hair was still dripping, sliding down her beautiful neck and into the mysterious cleavage on her chest. For the first time, he realized that she had a great figure. Xiaodong uncomfortably tightened the bath towel and laughed dryly. "Thank you for helping me get my clothes." Bailey Han's eyes flickered, and he casually threw the bathrobe over. Xiaodong reflexively reached out to catch it, and a tragedy happened. Because her movement was too big, the bath towel around her loosened and slid down her chest. "Ah!" Xiaodong hurriedly covered her private parts with the bathrobe and glared fiercely at Bailey Han. "Bailey Han, you did it on purpose." Although it was just a flash, Bailey Han still caught a glimpse of her snowy breasts. His cheeks were slightly hot and slightly red, but the exasperated Xiaodong did not notice. He quickly coughed to cover it up. "You think too highly of yourself. There's nothing to see." He had only thrown it out of habit, and did not expect such a coincidental thing to happen. Xiaodong glanced at the only king in the room. She glanced at Bailey Han, who was walking out of the bathroom in a bathrobe, and consciously picked up the blanket. "I'll sleep on the sofa. You sleep on the bed." Bailey Han did not say anything and looked at her as if this was how it should be. Xiaodong pursed her lips. She covered herself with the blanket and lay down on the sofa to sleep. Fortunately, the sofa in the presidential suite was big and soft enough to sleep comfortably. Moreover, she was very tired and did not recognize the bed. Soon she fell asleep. When Xiaodong woke up in a daze, Bailey Han walked out of the bathroom. He was wrapped in a bath towel to cover his private parts. His upper body was bare, and his hair was still dripping wet. The water droplets slowly slid down his muscular chest until they soaked into the bath towel and disappeared at the edge of his private parts. Xiaodong did not expect to see such a scene as soon as she opened her eyes. Her cheeks flushed red. Bailey Han, on the other hand, was very calm and composed. He casually sat on the sofa opposite her and wiped his messy wet hair. His voice had the hoarseness unique to the morning. "Why? Haven't you seen enough? If the person being stared at was not shy, why should she be?" Xiaodong pushed the blanket to the side and stood up abruptly. She deliberately looked him up and down, and finally snorted in disdain. "There's nothing to look at. Your skin is so white, and you don't look manly at all. Dark skin is what I call sexy." Bailey Han's hand paused in the middle of drying his hair. Xiaodong's mood suddenly brightened up. She hummed a song, and went to the bathroom to wash up. Kuta Beach was the most beautiful beach in Bali. The soft white sand and the blue sea washed over the beach. Beauties in bikinis were in groups, laughing and chatting. Xiaodong was wearing a tank top and shorts. She was lying on the deck chair under the umbrella, drinking coconut juice leisurely. Looking at the snow-white legs of the foreign beauties, it was a beautiful visual pleasure. "Wow, he's so handsome. Everyone, look, that Asian man has a good figure. His abs." Xiaodong raised her eyebrows and looked in the direction of the most lively crowd. A group of foreign beauties surrounded a man lying flat on the beach, complimenting him nonstop. The Asian man they were looking at was Bailey Han. Bailey Han was lying flat on the beach with sunglasses on. His upper body was naked and he was wearing a pair of beach shorts. His strong chest muscles were well defined and shone seductively under the sun. "Sir, can I buy you a drink?" Oh, a bold beauty came forward to invite him. Xiaodong craned her neck to watch a good show. Bailey Han was quite good at pretending. He was now a gentleman again. He politely rejected the beauty's invitation. However, after rejecting one person, another one popped up. By the time he had rejected more than 10 people in a row, his expression had turned ugly. Xiaodong, who had been silently observing him, couldn't help but burst out laughing. Bailey Han's cold gaze swept over. Xiaodong was not afraid of him. She raised her chin provocatively. "Mr. Bailey, your charm is boundless. In just 1 hour, so many beauties have fallen for your beach shorts." Bailey Han's cold lips slowly curved. He said indifferently, "At least it proves that their taste is much better than yours." No wonder this guy suddenly wanted to sunbathe. It turned out that he was still brooding over her evaluation in the morning. He was using facts to prove to her that he was very manly and very popular with women. Xiaodong rolled her eyes at him. Boring. Childish. Bailey Han's face suddenly darkened. He realized that his behavior was really as that annoying woman had said. It was very childish and boring. Why did he care about that woman's opinion? He even wanted to tan his skin? He was crazy, he must be crazy. The Uluwatu Cliffs were located at the southernmost tip of Bali. Behind it was a poignant love tragedy. Legend had it that there was a young man and woman who fell in love with each other. Their love did not receive any blessings, and in despair, they both jumped into the sea to commit suicide. Xiaodong stood at the edge of the cliff and looked at the turbulent sea below her. She listened to the private tour guide talk about the legend of the cliff. She could not help but sigh. The tragedy caused by the wrong family did not have a national boundary. Bailey Han looked at Xiaodong standing at the edge of the cliff. Her hair was blown by the sea breeze, and her delicate body looked like it would fall at any time. He frowned slightly. Damn it! Did she not know that it was dangerous to stand at the edge of the cliff? Hearing the footsteps behind her, Xiaodong turned around and saw Bailey Han's dark face. He seemed to be very unhappy. She nervously stretched out her arm. Don't come so close to me. What if you accidentally push me off the cliff? Bailey Han was very, very angry. He was crazy to care about this idiot. Do you have a brain? Come here. He angrily stretched out his arm to pull her. Go away, I'll go there myself. After he pushed her away last time, she did not trust him anymore. It was so high here. If he suddenly changed his mind and threw her away, then she would be dead. Bailey Han felt a deep sense of defeat. He looked at her deeply. Do whatever you want. He turned around and left. Young master is very angry. Leng Shui calmly expressed her thoughts as she held Xiaodong's arm and led her to a safe place. I know, but why should I look at his face? Why should I please him? She did not go to Bali with him willingly. She was also very angry to see his cold face every day. Bailey Han went down the mountain in anger, and Du Bing followed him. Only Xiaodong, Leng Shui and the tour guide Brenda were left on the mountain. Xiaodong was very satisfied with the situation. Without the annoying people, the scenery looked much more beautiful. When they were halfway down the mountain, Xiaodong suddenly heard intermittent gunshots. Leng Shui nervously stood in front of her to protect her. Brenda panicked and shouted, Gunshots, gunshots! It's terrible. There must be a gunfight. We have to go down the mountain quickly. Xiaodong was also very nervous, but she calmed down when she saw Leng Shui's serious face. She comforted Brenda. Don't be nervous. Maybe it's just a hunter's gunshot. As soon as she finished speaking, Brenda pointed at the woods in the distance and screamed. Ah, what's wrong? Xiaodong looked in the direction of her finger. About 50 meters away from them, there were several men in black suits lying on the ground, and there was a big pool of blood under them. Don't scream. Leng Shui quickly covered Brenda's mouth and said calmly, Brenda, you go first. She had to protect Xiaodong, and didn't have the energy to take care of others. Brenda knew that Xiaodong was pregnant and couldn't move freely. If she followed them, she might be dragged down. She said, God bless you, and ran down the mountain. The gunshots came from the southwest, about 500 meters away from here. Let's go in this direction. Whether it was a gunfight or not, it was better to stay away from them. Leng Shui led Xiaodong into a forest path. The vegetation in the tropical rainforest was very lush. It was difficult for them to move forward, as they had to be careful of poisonous snakes and spiders that suddenly appeared. As the gunshots gradually faded away, Xiaodong slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, a sharp pain came from her ankle. Her heart tightened and she looked down, only to see a strong and bloody hand tightly grasping her foot. The hand reached out from the bushes. It was obvious that the person was hiding behind the bushes. Xiaodong almost screamed out loud. She covered her mouth tightly and tugged at Leng Shui's arm with her other hand. Leng Shui looked back and saw her strange expression. She frowned and looked in the same direction. Her lips curled into a cold smile, and a sharp light flashed in her eyes. She moved quickly and viciously kicked the wrist that was tightly grasping Xiaodong's ankle. This kick was so sharp that it could definitely break that person's wrist. However, something unexpected happened. The person hiding behind the bushes suddenly reached out his other hand. The hand covered in blood was like a ghost's claw. It was even faster than Leng Shui's kick and accurately grabbed Leng Shui's foot. Leng Shui was stunned. Before she could react, the hand under her foot suddenly pulled hard, causing Leng Shui to fall to the ground. The person behind the bushes suddenly did a backflip and jumped in front of Leng Shui. A pistol had appeared in his hand at some point. He pressed it against her head and said in English, "Don't move." His voice was low and magnetic, with a chilling viciousness. The man was covered in blood. His black clothes were soaked in blood, and his face was stained with blood. It was impossible to see his appearance, but from his deep and cold eyes, one could tell that he was a dangerous cheetah. At the moment when Leng Shui was subdued by him, Xiaodong was very nervous and scared. But now, seeing him injured all over, she calmed down instead. The gunshots in the woods just now were probably aimed at him. Looking at him like this, he must be chased by someone. Since that was the case, they had conditions to negotiate. Xiaodong said calmly, "Don't hurt her. We can help you escape." The man's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Why should I believe you?" "Come and see." Hongcha 866. Chapter 29. Xiaodong sneered. "You can choose not to believe us and kill us. Then you can just lie here and wait for your death. In addition to the people who are chasing you, there are countless poisonous snakes and spiders here. I think they will like your fresh flesh and blood very much." The man's gaze paused. When he was fighting with the woman on the ground, he had exhausted all his strength. Even if he killed them, he would not have the strength to escape. However, he would not easily believe others. He took out a pill from his pocket and handed it to Xiaodong. "Take this poison. If you dare to play tricks, you will die within 3 days without my antidote." "Okay." Just as Xiaodong bent down to take the pill, a cold light burst out from Leng Shui's eyes. She kicked the man's head with the tip of her right foot. Although the man's attention was on Xiaodong, he did not ignore Xiaodong. He dodged her kick as fast as lightning, but suddenly his head hurt and his vision turned black. He fell to the ground. Before he fainted, he saw a wooden stick in Xiaodong's left hand. "Phew, that was close. Leng Shui, are you okay?" Xiaodong threw away the wooden stick in her hand. She had secretly taken it when the man was fighting with Leng Shui. "I'm fine." Leng Shui jumped up easily and kicked the fainted man on the ground with the tip of her foot. "What about him? Do you want to end him?" "Forget it. Let's go down the mountain quickly." Xiaodong looked at the man lying on the ground motionless. The two walked less than 50 meters away. Xiaodong stopped and called Leng Shui in frustration. "Leng Shui, I must be crazy. I actually feel guilty. He almost killed us, but that doesn't mean we should let him be killed. Quick, find a reason to persuade me to give up that terrible idea." "Sai, forget it, let's go back." Leng Shui looked at Xiaodong, who was in a dilemma. The corner of her mouth twitched, but there was still no expression on her face. "Have you thought it through?" Xiaodong nodded firmly. "We can find a cave and bring him there. At least we can prevent him from being bitten to death by the insect beasts." As a girl born in a harmonious society, she still couldn't bring herself to let that man die there, but she also couldn't be that stupid Mr. Donghua who was eaten by a wolf. The two of them returned to the place where the man had fainted, just in time to see a poisonous snake crawling towards his body. Leng Shui quickly pulled out a dagger and swung it out. The dagger nailed the back of the poisonous snake with a swoosh sound. The snake's tail swayed a few times and stiffly paralyzed on the ground. Xiaodong supported the man on the left and right and moved forward with difficulty in the dense forest. After walking for a long time, they finally found a cave and threw the man into the cave. Xiaodong sat on the ground and gasped for breath. "You take a rest first. I'll go out and explore." Leng Shui gave her the dagger. "If he suddenly wakes up, use this to deal with him. You'd better keep this. I don't think he will wake up for a while." Leng Shui pulled out another dagger from the small boot on her leg. "You keep this. I have more. I'll be back soon." "Okay, be careful." After Leng Shui left, Xia Dong checked the man's wounds. He was shot in 2 places, one in the chest and one in the leg. The rest of his body was bruised and cut. She sighed. Although you are very annoying, I can't just watch you die. She cut his clothes into pieces with the dagger and bandaged his wounds. As for the gunshot wounds, only a doctor could deal with them. She took out her mobile phone and contacted Bailey Han. Damn it, there is no signal. A rainstorm suddenly came. Xia Dong stood at the entrance of the cave, anxiously waiting for Leng Shui to come back. The unconscious man suddenly spoke in Chinese in his sleep. Cold, so cold. Because of his Chinese words, Xia Dong decided to be a good person to the end. It was rare to meet a fellow countryman in a foreign country. She touched the man's forehead. It was so hot. It seemed that he had a fever. She wet the cloth with rainwater and put it on the man's forehead to cool him down. The bloodstains on his face were glaring. Xia Dong wiped them clean with a wet cloth, revealing a pale face, but it did not diminish his handsomeness at all. His tightly shut eyes were faintly discernible under his messy hair. His delicate nose bridge was high, and his thin lips were tightly pursed. Even though his face was as pale as a sheet of paper, it could not conceal his innate domineering aura. For some reason, Xia Dong felt that his face looked very familiar, as if she had seen it somewhere before. The sound of footsteps interrupted Xia Dong's thoughts. It was Leng Shui. She was soaking wet and dragging a dead snake. There was a touch of helplessness on her face. The rain won't stop for a while. It seems that we will have to stay in the cave for a night. Leng Shui was indeed a special forces soldier. She was very good at survival in the wild. She used the man's gun to shoot at the withered grass and branches. The withered grass immediately lit up, and a fire was started. She skinned the dead snake with a dagger, and roasted it over the fire with branches. This was their dinner tonight. Xia Dong could not help, so she was busy taking care of the man. She also made a fire beside him. The light of the fire shone on his pale face. The more she looked at him, the more familiar he was. She frowned and thought for a while, but still could not figure out who he was. What's the matter? They haven't come back yet? In the Sunshine Coast Hotel, Bailey Han frowned and looked at the respectful hotel manager in front of him. He went back to the hotel in a fit of anger. He did not expect that Xia Dong had not come back in the afternoon. Yes, we have been trying to get in touch with Miss Xia, but we have not succeeded. In the face of strong pressure, the manager's head was covered with cold sweat. Gather all the security guards and bodyguards of the hotel, and search the mountain immediately. Bailey Han strode out. Du Bing hurriedly followed him, and at the same time, used the walkie-talkie to ask the driver to prepare the car. The car quickly drove to the foot of the mountain. Everyone was divided into groups of 3 to search in different directions. Bailey Han and Du Bing were in groups of 2, wearing raincoats and holding flashlights, going up the slope. The soil under their feet was relatively primitive. It had not been modified by anyone. The soil here was particularly soft. The slope was covered with about an inch of fallen leaves. Bailey Han moved forward with great difficulty. The rain washed away all the traces, making it more difficult for them to search. 2 hours later, there was still no news of Xia Dong. Bailey Han was burning with anxiety. He had heard from the locals that the primitive rainforest was very dangerous at night. Poisonous insects and fierce beasts would appear. In addition, it was raining heavily now. He did not know whether they were safe or not. In the cave, Xia Dong changed a wet cloth for the injured man from time to time. Leng Shui sat by the fire and focused on roasting the snake meat. The snake meat gradually emitted a fragrance. Like magic, she took out a bottle of salt and 5 spices from the bag around her waist and sprinkled them on the snake meat. The meat's fragrance was even stronger. I didn't expect you to be so well prepared. Xia Dong took the snake meat she had cut and praised. I'm used to it. When I was on a mission, I also survived in the wild for half a month. Since then, I have developed the habit of carrying spices with me. This was the first time Leng Shui mentioned her own experience. The two were indeed hungry and focused on eating. Leng Shui's chewing suddenly stopped and looked around vigilantly. She lowered her voice and said, "Did you hear something?" Xiaodong also stopped chewing because she also heard a sizzling sound coming from behind two big rocks in the cave. Then, the sizzling sound was accompanied by the sound of something hitting the ground. The sound was not loud, but it was very clear. Xiaodong and Leng Shui both stared at the two big rocks with all four eyes. Several green lights flashed from behind the big rocks. Leng Shui threw away the snake meat and pulled out a burning stick with both hands at the same time. She stuffed one of them into Xiaodong's hand and shouted, "Go to the entrance of the cave." Before they could see what appeared, Xiaodong was pushed away by Leng Shui. Leng Shui held the fire stick in one hand and picked up the man lying on the ground with the other. They followed her to the entrance of the cave. Leng Shui raised her leg and kicked the fire away. The burning wood scattered in all directions, forming a protective barrier in front of the three of them. Xiaodong saw clearly that what crawled out from behind the big rocks was a dense swarm of black spiders. When they crawled to the front of the burning stick, they finally stopped and gathered together to gnaw on the snake meat on the ground. The sound of spiders gnawing on the snake meat was hair-raising. Leng Shui looked at the group of spiders with a cold face. They are black widows, the most terrible spiders in the tropical rainforest. If they bite you, you will die very quickly. Xiaodong shivered. The firewood won't last long. We have to escape. These spiders were very fast. A few of them had already crawled along the stone wall and were eyeing Xiaodong and Leng Shui covetously. Leng Shui looked at the man lying on her shoulder. "I'm not sure if we can take him with us." "No, we can't throw him away," Xiaodong shouted almost reflexively. His face was so familiar. Maybe he was someone she knew before. She couldn't do that. She stepped forward to support the man. "I'll take him. You cover us." A wounded man and a pregnant woman. Leng Shui had to take care of them while dealing with the spiders. The three of them supported each other out of the cave. Leng Shui threw the torch in her hand to the place where the firewood was piled up. Wisps of white smoke drifted out of the cave. "Young master, there's a fire over there." Du Bing looked around with the night vision binoculars and suddenly shouted excitedly, "Call a few more people over." Bailey Han's heart trembled. Regardless of how difficult the road was, he rushed in the direction Du Bing pointed. "Xiaodong, Xiaodong, where are you?" Bailey Han's voice was particularly clear in the rainy night. Leng Shui supported Xiaodong with one hand and carried the wounded man with the other. She groped forward in the rainy night. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. "Miss Xia, it's young master's voice." Xiaodong also heard it and shouted excitedly, "Bailey Han, I'm here." "Bailey Han." "Young master, they're over there." "Xiaodong, don't move. We'll be there soon." Bailey Han practically sprinted over. The raincoat on his body had already been torn by the branches and did not provide any shelter from the rain. His hair and clothes were all wet, and he looked extremely pathetic. However, this did not affect his domineering aura. "You idiot. You followed the tour guide all the way and got lost. Calling you an idiot is flattering you. You're a single-celled animal. You don't have such a high-level thing as a brain." Bailey Han scolded Xiaodong in one breath. Awesome novel Songshu 566, that you're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.